Chapter 1288. In fact, Han Dong had also considered the issue of the meeting for a long time. It had been nearly 2 years since he left the main group. Using his own characteristics, connections, opportunities, and hard work, he had already established a status and authority in London that was second only to the priest, as well as the personal authorization from his mother. Part of it was for the convenience of himself and the manor, but a larger part was for the expeditionary army and the human cause. How could he meet everyone again? If he directly revealed his identity to the knights with great fanfare, it might be very satisfying for a while, but it would definitely trigger a series of chain reactions. It would even affect the prestige of the commanders and shake the fundamental ideals of all the knights. The knights who had been exposed to the Evernight environment for a long time were no longer as strong as they were in the Holy City. It could even be said that a seed had been quietly planted in them, a seed of depravity that could change their worldview and outlook on life once it sprouted. Han Dong's reckless meeting might accidentally ignite the seeds, which would cause the knights to lose the fundamental spirit of chivalry and turn them into ancient human beings, an independent race that was used to serving the hybrid demons. Therefore, Han Dong chose the meeting place here and only revealed his identity in front of the commander. The great responsibility of leading the humans had never been Han Dong's responsibility. He had never thought about it, and his identity was very inappropriate. What Han Dong wanted to do was to be like Mr. Black and White and secretly act as a go-between. Commander Malone, Commander Great Demon, Commander Shea, and Commander Olivia, long time no see. I'm really sorry to have to meet you in this way. A lot of things have happened recently, and I've been very busy. I basically couldn't spare time. The comprehensive renovation of the East District was also carried out in a hurry a week ago. I also considered the fundamental problem of the knights, so I didn't greet you at the city gate immediately. Just as Ma Long and Shea had a lot to say to each other, the great demon commander, who had a calm expression, tore open a big demon's mouth from his white gelatinous skin and spoke in a tone of acknowledgement and affirmation. Yes, you did well. Hugo had a private conversation with me before we set off on the expedition. He said that you might be of some use during the expedition, but he wasn't sure how much use you'd be able to make. Now, it seemed that there was an answer. Thank you for everything you've done for the expeditionary army and all of humanity. Also, congratulations on successfully opening the door. Later, please follow us back to the East District. The coronation ceremony of the elite knight is also necessary. At that time, you'll be introduced into a new circle. Certainly. Next, let me explain the details of the London game. With his mother's permission, Han Dong lit a unique corpse oil candle in the middle of the conference table to restore everyone's vision so that the following explanation could be more in-depth and specific. First, Han Dong used the yellow sand to construct a perfectly scaled model of London. Then, he used the black smoke from the corpse oil candle to simulate a planar teleportation portal in the air. He placed his left arm on the table, and through his understanding of the truth, an extremely delicate death magic gushed out. Through the black sand, he constructed the dark residents, game participants, and foreign invaders that were traversing the city of London. In a dynamic form, it illustrated the London game that took place a year ago. In this game, we successfully defeated the first batch of invaders from the Saint-Tier world, and at the same time completely killed a mythical creature. This kind of comprehensive victory allowed the organization behind Fate to make comprehensive changes to the next large-scale invasion. There is even a high possibility that they will gather many worlds to jointly invade. When the time comes, the hybrid demons in the London area and our human expeditionary army will jointly fight against the invaders from the outside world. At the same time, at least 10 superior will pay attention to the entire battle. If we can fulfill the following 2 conditions, we will be given a certain amount of authority. 1. Obtain a comprehensive victory in the London game. 2. During the battle, the human expeditionary army's value evaluation during the battle is higher than the Hybrid Demon Alliance. I have already confirmed with my mother that as long as the above conditions are met, during the battle, Humans who perform well and reach the standards of a king will be given admission tickets to this Sharphorn conference, where they will be given the qualification to become a king. The celestial city will also be given a king title deed inferior. This title deed will be jointly controlled by the humans who become kings. The celestial city will also become an important turning point in human history. There is also a series of cooperation between humans and hybrid demons, which will be discussed in detail during the Sharphorn conference. This is the greatest benefit that I can obtain at the moment. When Han Dong said those words, Yi Zichen nodded. Well done. The great demon actually had a lot to say, but because he was too excited, most of his energy was used to suppress such emotional fluctuations so as to not lose his composure during the meeting. What Han Dong proposed was the ultimate goal of the Great Expedition. The Great Expedition was not to go out of the city to kill the hybrid demons and declare the so-called independence. Instead, it was to prove the value of humans to the hybrid demons. Humans were not the masters of the world from the beginning, and even made a major mistake in ancient times that almost led to the destruction of the world. When the Secret Whisperers Knights deciphered the ancient stone tablet and understood the truth of everything, the Supreme Council had already begun to discuss this important topic: how to regain the status and sovereignty of humans. It was impossible to rely on the power of fate to catch up with the hybrid demons in a short period of time, or even forever. Moreover, the truth on the stone tablet also made the higher-ups very clear that the gate of fate was a double-edged sword. If one day, using the portal in the Holy City as a node to launch a world invasion similar to the ancient times, the humans who had not yet fully developed and had not even obtained a throne would be enslaved in an instant, or even exterminated. If they were to compromise and rely on fate, it would go against the chivalry and the most fundamental concept of being born in this world. Since the sleeping hybrid demons had given humans a chance to keep the three main cities that would not be invaded on the day of their awakening, there had to be someone who could stand up and prove their value with the courage of today's humans, pay for the mistakes that humans had made in ancient times, and take back the world authority that belonged to humans. Therefore, despite the opposition of another main city, the Holy City put the Great Expedition on the agenda and prepared to take an important step in human history. However, what they did not expect was the final negotiation goal of the Great Expedition, world authority, which was the throne and the land deed, was actually put on the conference table by an ordinary knight in advance as a reward. A lot of concerns were eliminated in advance. There was only one thing that the expeditionary force needed to do next, and that was to deal with the upcoming invasion. There are also some behavioral restrictions regarding everyone's life in London. I have arranged them in this document in advance. After all, we are still living on the land deed of our biological mother. Although a lot of restrictions have been eliminated, some basic rules still have to be obeyed. I hope that the expeditionary force can live in a comfortable state in the Holy City during the 4 months in London and recover their spirit and body before the expedition. In addition, I have already communicated with Father Lysos. Humans and hybrid demons can carry out various friendly, interactive activities, including various banquets, martial arts exchanges, and so on. Everyone can even slowly try to accept the dark environment in London and go to other areas of London to live together with the dark residents and carry out some private social activities. I have also drawn up a detailed draft here. This kind of interaction will be of great significance to our next joint operation. I have said so much. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Father Lysos is very easy to talk to. He is also the main person in charge of London's surface. Chapter 1289. As Han Dong had prepared the detailed documents in advance, the entire meeting only lasted for an hour. Nicholas, do you want to go back with us to accept the Elite Knight promotion ceremony? If I go back with you directly, it might cause some misunderstandings. It's better for the leader to go back first. I'll quietly return to the main group as a passerby later. Okay. The great demon leader knew what Han Dong meant. He let Malone and the others leave with him, and he could slowly ask them when Han Dong returned to the night group. The moment the four leaders left the darkness, the atmosphere in the meeting room immediately became joyful. Mother, Father Lesos, how was it? Our leader is very strong, right? Mother stuck out a few black tongues and licked the surface of her lips. She stared at the broken chair Malone had just sat on and gave a high evaluation. Not bad. Among the four people who just came, two of them are already at the regent level. One of them already has the throne that doesn't belong to our world. It's quite interesting. Since there are such people, I can contribute less. Yes, Leader Malone has already obtained the throne in the infernal world. He's quite strong. When talking about this, Han Dong was quite proud. Leader Malone had a great influence on Han Dong, especially the betrayal incident. If he wasn't poached at the last minute, Han Dong would very likely choose the Hell Knights because of Leader Malone's personal reasons. The priest tidied up his sleeves. His black gem-like eyes flashed with a strange look. He waited until his mother finished speaking before he slowly spoke. Nicholas, since you've already formulated the interactive activities, you can let these leaders have a deep interaction with our mythical bodies in London. I can provide the corresponding occasions. I'll go back and discuss with the leaders. By the way, there are still 4 months before the London game. Some of the knights may use the Gate of Destiny in London. I hope you can make it convenient for us. Isn't this written in the interactive plan? Since I didn't raise any objections during the meeting, there's no problem. Also, you can consider letting the humans and the dark inhabitants of London form a small team and go together. I'll leave the details to you. After all, you have more experience in this area. Then I'll take over everything related to the Gate of Destiny. Since there's nothing else, I have to go back. It's been 2 years since I've returned to the Knights. I've almost forgotten my human identity. At this moment, a tentacle from his mother wrapped around Han Dong's head and formed a small mouth with black lips beside his ear. Through the generator at the tip of his tongue, it entered his ear and whispered directly into his brain. Isn't it good to forget? That's right. After a while, external assistance will arrive. These external reinforcements are mainly related to the origin substance that you've encountered before, and this time, the 10 great origin substances will be arriving. At the same time, a portion of their corresponding forces will also be moving into London. Most of these foreign reinforcements are pure-blooded hybrid demons, and their way of thinking is quite conservative. They can't accept humans like we do, so I need you to resolve this conflict. Okay, I won't cause too much trouble. The arrival of the body of origin was within Han Dong's expectations. It was just that he didn't expect that their corresponding forces would also fully move into London. It was indeed a troublesome matter. Fortunately, Han Dong still had good connections. There was no need to establish a friendly relationship with all 10 origin substances. Han Dong only needed to become friends with one of them, and most of the conflicts could be resolved. I suddenly miss you, Brother Grimm. In the center of the distant universe, in a chaotic place, in the depths of the chaos filled with abysses, a young man with messy hair was watching a performance in the theater of madness. He suddenly sneezed and directly annihilated a crazy servant performing in front of him. Grimm complained with a look of disgust. What's with this human body? Why did it feel like someone was calling me just now? They landed and settled in the Demon King's castle in the eastern city. Han Dong had directly arrived here through spatial means and had yet to officially meet with the knights. The great Demon King personally awarded the Elite Knight medal. Nicholas, this is not the Holy City, and the promotion ceremony is not so formal. However, I also hope that you can clearly understand your new identity and corresponding responsibilities. Elite Knights are the core combat power of the Knights. The total number of Elite Knights participating in this great expedition is only a little more than 100. Under normal circumstances, when the Knights who have completed the opening of the door return to the Holy City, they will receive the best treatment from the Holy City, and at the same time, they will be provided with comprehensive rehabilitation training. However, your current physical condition seems to have completed the adaptation to the truth in advance, and your condition is excellent. I think there must be someone who has carried out special training for you. Someone? I guess so. Han Dong recalled his experience in the Fight Club and felt a little heartache. In addition, Elite knights can hold corresponding positions in their respective knights, and the highest position can be the first captain. Because of your great contribution to the expeditionary army, I can vouch for you in the name of the person in charge of the expeditionary army and the current leader of the Misfortune Knights to let you directly take the position of commander or third captain. What do you think? Han Dong hurriedly waved his hand and refused. The Secret Whisper Knights are full of talents. It would be very impolite of me to directly push someone down with the authority of the great Demon King. Moreover, I would prefer to keep a low profile. As for the knight position, when I return to the Holy City, I will work hard to fight for it through the normal procedures. Thank you for your kindness, great Demon King. No matter what, I have to thank you this time. The great demon ignored the difference in status and bowed to Han Dong to express his gratitude. This scene made Han Dong feel very awkward. The great Demon King was a powerhouse with the strength of a king. Your achievements during the expeditionary army will be recorded. Even if it is not made public here, it will be directly reported to the Central Council when we return in triumph. I believe that when you return to the Holy City, you will receive the highest praise. At that time, if you have any personal requests, you can also directly raise them to the Supreme Council. Royal authority and land deeds, these two are enough for you to exchange for the top authority in the Holy City. Authority? Han Dong did have some ideas. The other leaders seem to want to talk to you privately, so I won't take up any more of your time. Also, Leader Olivia seems to have something to discuss with you. Please be sure to make a trip to the sanctum. Okay, great Demon King. If you have any instructions, feel free to look for me. Han Dong knew very well that an explanation would be necessary, especially Malone, Shea, and Leader Alex, who had a certain basic relationship with him. Leader Olivia, the #1 cleric of the Holy City, has always been biased against my hybrid demon attribute. I don't know why she is in such a hurry to find me. Thinking about it, she should be under the greatest pressure in the entire expeditionary army. After all, she has to take care of the pollution problem of all the knights. I should go to the sanctum first. Just as Han Dong was quietly staying in the shadows of the streets and secretly heading to the sanctum area, unexpectedly, he saw a familiar young man wearing a British trench coat and a monocle bronze mirror walking on the street. He was holding a pile of documents in his hands and seemed to be heading to the Demon King's castle. Han Dong's long stare also attracted the other party's attention. When the two of them looked at each other, they both saw an extremely exaggerated scene at the same time. Different styles of royal authority slowly rose from the feet of the two. Chapter 1290. Resonance, a kind of resonance that came from the new king, allowed the two to see each other's throne virtual image. A black stone throne rose from the feet of the young Englishman on the street. The theme of the throne was more like fingers. Densely packed fingers were carved out of a special black stone material, and the young man seemed to be sitting among the fingers. Thousands of people were crowding onto the throne. Their heads were wrapped in bandages, and their faces could not be seen clearly. They were in the posture of slaves, and they used their exposed spines to support the throne. The reason why they used their spines to support the throne was that their fingers had all been cut off. Perspective change in the young Englishman's vision. A throne virtual image also rose from the feet of the mysterious young man in the alley. A large tombstone slowly rose from under Han Dong. Some strange and incomprehensible symbols were carved on it. Although it did not look like a throne, it constantly overflowed with a strange king's aura. Throne embryo? It has not undergone any carving. A new king? The young Englishman immediately disappeared from the street and appeared in the alley next. After more than a year, the two of them did not expect to reunite in this way. Dimps, your throne looks like this. It seems to be very perfect. Dimps did not directly answer the question of his throne. Instead, he looked up and down at Han Dong with a surprised look. I have considered that you would get a certain status in London and even be able to lay the foundation for the expeditionary army in advance like now. But I never thought that you could fall to the bottom behind the door. Even in the hybrid demon world, There has not been a new king who can reach the bottom of the abyss of truth during the opening of the door for a long time. Do the hybrid demons know about this? Only you know. Hearing this, Dempsey's palm gently fell on Han Dong's shoulder. Well, this matter should be kept secret as much as possible. Wait until you have built a legend before making it public. Among the hybrid demons, there's a group named after the abyss of truth called the Origin. They're the top hybrid demons directly recognized by the old king. Your identity as the new king will be seen as a threat by them. The Origin? I do have some conflicts with some of them, but some of them are on good terms with me. Hearing this, Demps flicked his sixth finger out of shock. Huh, you've already met with this group of perverts. When did it happen? It's in London. About a few months ago, there was a probing invasion here. I've worked with the Primordial before. There were indeed some extremely vile existences among the Origin substance, but there were also some kind existences. It wouldn't be long before all 10 of them arrived in London. I'll introduce you to each other then. Hearing this, Dempus shook his head helplessly. I didn't think that in just over a year, you would have pulled such a huge gap between us. Let's put the introduction aside for now. If I were to be recognized, it would be very difficult for me to survive in their hands. Let's think about opening the door first. Nicholas, can you arrange for London's Gate of Destiny in the near future? I've already arranged that. Any knight can use the Gate of Destiny at any time. Yes, I've already entered the Gate of Destiny once in Minano. Although it's inconvenient to be labeled as a hybrid demon, it will affect the overall situation. I'm now a rank 3 knight. If I can seize the opportunity to obtain 2 points of talent, I can also open the door successfully. We'll talk about the details later. The great demon captain is looking for me alone, and it seems like you're in a hurry to deal with something. I'm staying with Abel and the others at apartment C031 on Brighton Street. See you later. Okay, it just so happens that I've been feeling unwell recently. I'll have to trouble you later. No problem. The sixth finger lightly poked his back, and a type of energy channeling effect made Han Dong feel comfortable all over. Demps has also improved a lot during the expedition. At least his massage skills have improved greatly. However, looking at his surprised expression, it seems that he's not only surprised that I'm the new king, but also surprised that I'm in my throne form. I'll ask him about this during the massage. I'll try my best to dig out some of Demp's secrets. The meeting of friends ended. Han Dong followed the great demon captain's request and first came to the expeditionary army's important building, the moving sanctuary. The sanctuary was completely rooted in the city of London. Currently, with the assistance of the divine assistants, the outer church was quickly being built with the sanctuary as the center. There was already a long queue at the entrance of the sanctuary. A large number of knights in different stages of contamination were waiting here to receive blessings and purification from the holy knights. Han Dong covered his body with a cloak in between the alleys. Just as he was about to sneak in through spatial means, a light and warm palm landed on his shoulder. Come here, I have something very important to talk to you about in private. Han Dong turned his head and saw the white-masked holy lady standing behind him. Captain Olivia, aren't we going to talk in the sanctuary? The sanctuary is currently overloaded. If we talk in there, we'll take up space. Also, it's not easy for your identity to be exposed. Come here. Olivia directly brought Han Dong to her residence in London. It was a rather simple single-story building. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude for your contributions to humanity. Similarly, Olivia did not care about the difference in their identities and bowed slightly to Han Dong to express her gratitude. One had to know that her identity was not as simple as a captain. She also represented the will of the Holy City Church and had a deep relationship with the royal family and the parliament. Olivia was appointed as the first priestess and was the treasurer of the Holy City. Captain Olivia, you're too kind. These are all things that I should do. As expected, Mr. Black and White has better foresight than some of the guys in the church. He has more foresight than I do. I'm very pleased that when your identity was leaked, the Parliament decisively made the right choice to accept you. The main reason I called you here today is to talk to you about the East District. Did you really complete the renovation work here alone? How much time did it take? Well, other than me, there are only hybrid demons here. I'm the only one who can do this. It took about a week. A week? How did you do it? The face under the white veil changed slightly. According to her calculations, it would take at least a month to isolate the large-scale contamination of the city. The attributes of the deep-sea hybrid demons are more special. Although they also have the characteristics of contamination, their contamination is more inclined towards gentleness and healing. Using this point, I first covered the darkness in the streets and buildings with the deep sea. I'm proficient in the secret techniques related to the deep sea. Combined with my own attributes, I slowly removed the contamination in the deep sea. Of course, this method is not as comprehensive as Captain Olivia's purification of the entire area. It will also make the streets more humid and mixed with some rotting smell from the deep sea. She stared at Han Dong, who was explaining how to carry out the renovation project with a serious face. Olivia's state of mind had changed greatly. She was born in the church and had accepted the concept of hybrid demon filth since she was young. It could be said that it was deeply ingrained in her. In her worldview, as long as an individual was related to hybrid demons, it would inevitably contain evil and filth. It needed to be completely purified or even erased. Han Dong could roughly see some of Olivia's thoughts. Taking advantage of the situation in front of the sanctum just now, he suggested, the seawater cover can also be applied to individuals. If Captain Olivia can rest assured, I'm also willing to reduce some of the burden on the sanctum. Well, let's give it a try. Olivia made a decision that she would never make in the Holy City. A priest actually used the hybrid demons to remove the contamination. If this matter was known by the church, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. But this was the distant city of London. She wanted to see more from this young man. Chapter 1291. The village of Goatswood, Severn Valley, England. Tonight would be a rare full moon. The fallen villagers living here had received instructions from the distant stars a few days ago. At this time, all of them had gathered on the hillside of the village, surrounding the holy object they worshipped and guarded day and night. At the same time, it was also a strange object that could communicate with the distant stars. The moon lens had a radius of 10 meters. The villagers, who had long been mutated, were performing an ancient ritual of physical intercourse under the moon to welcome the ancient existence they worshipped. When the light of the full moon shone on the surface of the lens, it formed an ancient portal that led to the Black Forest. Wisps of aura that could evoke the desires of all living things floated out of the portal. Twisted tentacles that emitted a dark luster came from the foreign dimension. Bloated bodies with mouths full of flesh. Heavy black goat hooves engraved with ancient inscriptions. In the depths of the meat between the tentacles, one could vaguely see a beautiful body and a beautiful face that could make one's imagination run wild. Bursts of laughter resounded in the valley around Goatswood Village, evoking the desires of all living creatures within 10 miles. Hundreds of black goat airs poured out of the portal. The huge number stunned the villagers, but they did not dare to stop their ritual. Even if someone was accidentally crushed by the goat's hooves, the others continued to carry out the ritual. They had never seen so many high-level existences come at once. Moreover, there were a few high-level existences that were comparable to small hills in size. However, the last individual that appeared from the mirror could be described with normal words as a young woman who was not much different from a human being. Her graceful and seductive body was only covered by a translucent thin black dress. Her face was covered by a black veil to avoid unnecessary trouble due to her appearance. When the perfectly proportioned goat legs crossed the mirror and stepped on the ground, wisps of vitality that symbolized nurturing forced the flowers and plants within 100 meters to grow rapidly, and the sowing was completed in a short time. The surrounding pagans were also energized, and the intensity of the ritual reached its peak. The woman was not in the mood to watch the welcoming ceremony that the villagers had meticulously prepared. Instead, she looked up at the starry sky above her head, as if she could see the living planet called the Black Forest hidden among the stars. The words from the incubated one echoed in her mind. She had to make a corresponding contribution to the London game this time. However, compared to the London game that would not start for a while, she seemed to be more concerned about a special human living on this planet. Phew, I can finally return to this planet ahead of time. I wonder if Nicholas is still in London? This woman was the fourth prime, Sally Lovehoof. In the sanctum, Han Dong used the identity of the mysterious man and used the curtain as a cover. Almost 30 knights had been cleansed of the contamination, and the results were good. However, there were still some small accidents during the treatment. Fortunately, Commander Olivia was there to assist. It's actually possible to use the hybrid demon's ability to remove the contamination in the knight's body without causing any harm or side effects. During the period of time when he accepted Han Dong and came into contact with Han Dong, he had been very careful. Olivia's view of the world had completely changed. She had always been strict with self-discipline and abstinence. She would never be disturbed by anything in the outside world. Now, she really wanted to know more about this young man. This young man's heart was human, but his body was more like a hybrid demon's. She wanted to know more about the hybrid demons and Han Dong's strange experiences in the hybrid demon world as a middleman. Commander Olivia, it's getting late. I still have to go to Commander Malone to give the necessary explanation. Oh, okay. Next time, you can come to the sanctum directly to find me when you're free. I'll be there on time tomorrow until the number of nights that need to be cleansed is reduced to less than 30% of the total number. Anyway, I'm quite free recently. I'll try my best to reduce the pressure on the holy knights. May the holy light bless you, Nicholas. Han Dong turned around and left. At the same time, he waved goodbye to Olivia. It was not until he walked out of a street that Han Dong could finally relax. Following Olivia around today was too restrictive. Whether it was etiquette or various actions, he had to follow the standards of the holy city's nobles. The harvest is still pretty good. This way, Commander Olivia's prejudice against me will be completely eliminated. The status of the holy knights is extremely important. Being able to establish a good relationship with them will also be beneficial for future operations. Following closely, Han Dong went to the other commanders in private. When he met with Malone, his shoulder blade was almost shattered by a slap. It was not just Han Dong's contribution to the expeditionary army. During the conversation between Malone and Han Dong, he was able to distinguish the great demon scent from Han Dong and the pharaoh identity that came from a note in his hand. If Han Dong had not repeatedly refused, he would have been dragged to the backyard by Malone for a spar. In the end, he used wine as a substitute for a fist to dispel Malone's enthusiasm. Following that, he went to the Red Cross hospital. It was also difficult to explain to Commander Shea. Han Dong had promised to accompany her during the expedition. In the end, he had been gone for 2 years. The Duchess did not hold back. After all, she also had information about the holy blood in her hands. As both a reward and a punishment, the sound of a whip constantly came from Commander Shea's office. Many of the Scarlet doctors in the hospital were so scared that they temporarily stopped their work. After a visit, it was already early in the morning. Demps and the others should also be asleep. After all, everyone has just arrived in London. Let's leave it for tonight. I'll meet with them tomorrow. Han Dong held the Elite Knight badge and inevitably felt a little regretful. The moment he stepped into the door of truth, he was destined to widen the gap between him and his former companions, and it was a gap that was difficult to reduce. If he did not understand the truth of the world in advance and was limited to the conflict between humans and hybrid demons, Han Dong would have chosen to grow with everyone. There's no other way. The world's gears have begun to spin faster. I hope Abel won't feel too much psychological pressure. Just as Han Dong was preparing to go back to the manor to sleep, a member of the church under his management turned into a black ball and quickly floated over. Your Excellency, I received the information you wanted from outside the city. The first original force has appeared at the edge of the forest and will enter the city tonight. So fast. Which original force is it? From the information obtained by the scouts, it's definitely the flock from the Black Forest. Sir, you should be more familiar with them. Miss Sally, I'll go and greet them personally. Sir, do you need to bring all the members of the church? No, I'll be fine alone. Since the expeditionary army had moved into London, Han Dong had to do a good job of diplomatic work. He specially ordered the members of the church stationed in the outer city to immediately inform him once they discovered foreign forces. I didn't expect Sally to be the first to arrive, but it's a good thing. It's much better than Eugene being the first. When Han Dong arrived at the city gate, he was immediately stunned by the scene in front of him. The flock that was like a moving hill almost filled the northern basin. Among them, there was a mountain that was comparable to a fortress walking in the middle of the group. He looked over. Between the tentacle trees at the top of the mountain, there was a beautiful woman sitting sideways. Chapter 1292. It's the first time I've seen such a huge black goat. It must be a mythical creature. The influence of bloodline is really great. This goat's strength is extremely high. I'm afraid it has reached the late stage of mythical, like Father Lessos. I hope this mythical creature is easy to talk to. Just as the flock of sheep was walking in the basin and was still a little distance away from London, Sally, who was leaning on the tentacle forest, suddenly opened her eyes wide. A familiar and intimate smell was inhaled into her nose, evoking all kinds of memories from a year ago. She directly jumped down from the 100-meter-high hill of Sarcomas. The black goat's hooves stepped at the forefront of the flock of sheep, searching for the source of the smell. Because of Sally's action, the flock of sheep temporarily stopped. In the night, a young man was walking along the black stone path toward the flock of sheep. Sally stared at the incomparably familiar figure in the darkness and recalled the various events that happened in London a year ago. A young man who was not a hybrid demon saved her from Grimm's hands. He even joined forces with Grimm in the later stage of the incident to kill a mythical invader. However, the young man who was walking toward her had the same figure. Compared to a year ago, his aura had greatly improved, and the gray matter and madness had become more obvious. Miss Sally, long time no see. You open the door? When she stared at Han Dong, who walked out of the darkness, she actually had the illusion of facing the gray matter old king in the original game. At the same time, it was mixed with a strange feeling, as if she could hear strange laughter coming from Han Dong's body. The face without facial features seemed to be painted with a terrifying smile through blood red. Well, I finally managed to open the door on the eve of the game. Miss Sally seems to have improved a lot. Your aura is similar to a qualitative improvement. On the path that Sally had just walked, the ground was already blooming with colorful flowers. The stems and leaves actively intertwined and stimulated each other to produce a large amount of pollen. New flowers and plants were born every second. When talking about her own ability, Sally also became unusually serious. In this game, I represent the Black Forest and must achieve good results. At the same time, the experience that happened here will also be an important part of the mythical scroll. Well, if you need any help, just call me. Let's talk in the city. Han Dong was also embarrassed to let the flock of sheep stay outside the city for a long time because of him. Yes. As Sally waved her hand, the flock obeyed and carried out the humanization rule of the City of London, shrinking their giant bodies to the size of a normal human. Among them, the largest mythical body that carried Sally turned into a muscular granny wrapped in a black woolen coat. She was so strong that she looked like she was working out with protein powder. The mythical body's eyes were fixed on Han Dong the entire time. Furthermore, she had never seen Sally having such an intimate conversation with someone of the opposite sex. She could even sense Sally's lust surging out of her body when she met this person of the opposite sex. Even though Sally quickly suppressed it, it couldn't escape her observation. The old granny stepped forward. Sally, is this the outsider who won the final victory with Grimm in the City of London game? Yes, and Ingrid. Last time, it was all thanks to Nicola's help, or else I would have been forcefully brought to the core of the chaos by Grimm. Yes. Ingrid did not express any gratitude. In her values, being taken away by Grimm was not a bad thing. Although Sally might suffer because of this, it would also become an opportunity. Sally would have a close relationship with the madness, and even the Black Forest would receive direct protection from the madness. However, she also loved Sally very much, so she didn't say much about this matter. The residential area has been divided. Please follow me. Han Dong showed his identity as a bishop and led the flock of sheep into the city. Although Sally looked very reserved on the outside and covered her face with a black veil, her goat legs didn't listen to her. She hurriedly caught up with Han Dong and walked side by side with him. She wanted to know what Han Dong had experienced in the past year, and how deep would Han Dong reach with his outstanding talent in the door opening. However, the two didn't chat for long. Aunt Ingrid suddenly turned her gaze to the east side of the city of London. Why do I feel there's an unpleasant smell in the city? Han Dong, who was leading the flock, immediately turned around and explained in a very friendly manner. Due to receiving a void invitation, an extremely powerful human expeditionary force came to the city of London from thousands of miles away. They are currently residing in the eastern part of the city. They will also be an important part of the city of London's game, fighting against the invaders with us. Oh, so they are humans? Since it's a key to the gate instruction, it's not my place to comment. I hope they can live in their own territory and not disturb us. Of course not. The flock of sheep entered the city. They would also follow a series of rules here and try their best to maintain a human appearance. Characteristic appearances such as horns, hooves, or tails were permitted. After seeking the opinions of Ingrid and Sally, the flock of sheep was arranged to stay in a large hotel. Every black goat offspring was assigned a comfortable guest room. After everything was done, Sally gently pulled Han Dong's sleeve, as if she had something to discuss in the room. This scene happened to be seen by the muscular grandma in the next room, Ingrid. Sally, your body is known as the heart of the Black Forest. You have to cherish your body. Sally also understood the meaning of this sentence and quickly explained, I'm just talking to Nicholas about the door opening. Nothing else. It's best that it's nothing. Everyone hopes that your body can give birth to the purest and noblest hybrid demon. After the grandma reminded her, she returned to her room alone. In terms of seniority and rank, she was superior to Sally, but in terms of power, she could not control Sally. Nicholas, don't mind it. Aunt Ingrid's personality is like this. Moreover, our homeland, the Black Forest, for some special reasons, needs the protection and supply of resources from other large forces, and is also thinking about the forest or me. Han Dong added, looking at your aunt, it seems that she wants you to go with Grimm. Of course, Grimm is the mad child. In terms of status, he is higher than most mythical beings. He can even talk to some of the lower kings. However, I personally dislike Grimm. In comparison, you are better. At this point, Sally lightly tugged on Han Dong's sleeve, signaling him to come into the room to talk. Do you have anything else to do tonight? If not, I want to sleep with you. Han Dong did not expect Sally to be so direct. What I mean is, let's go to the Dreamlands. Even if we talk in the room, some of the content might be transmitted to the Black Forest by my aunt. If we are in the Dreamlands, we can talk freely. I want to with you. With me? Han Dong looked at Sally's perfect goat leg. For the sake of the friendship between humans and hybrid demons, he was willing to make a sacrifice. At this moment, Sally's eyes turned sharp. Let's see how strong you are. Since you have achieved the atavistic body, I will not hold back like a year ago. This time, the winner will be me. Huh? So Miss Sally still cares about the competition from a year ago? How can I not care? You, as a mature being, defeated me publicly in the ring. At that time, there were several original souls and London's priests present. Fortunately, this matter did not spread to the forest, or my identity as an original soul would have been taken away. Are you ready? If you are, quickly come and sleep. Sally had already crawled into bed as soon as she entered the room. Currently, she was facing where Han Dong was standing. She lifted the blanket with one hand and gently patted the space between the blankets with her black tail. Chapter 1293. Dreamland. When the two first met in London, Sally wanted to test Han Dong's strength, so they went to a hidden space designed as a world refuge. They even accidentally disturbed the King of Nightmares. This time, the two were very careful. They moved quietly into Dreamland and found a stone field that was not under the jurisdiction of any of the old kings. Broken stones of different sizes were spread all over the place. Dozens of strange boulders were pieced together to form a strange array, so that the gravity in this area was several times higher than other areas, even reaching 10 times the normal gravity in the center. However, a fierce battle was breaking out in the stony wilderness. The mantis demons that lived here were scared and migrated. The power generated from several clashes reached the strength of a mythical body. Layers of horizontal tremors continued to spread out, and the tremors could be felt from tens of kilometers away. The whole battle lasted for 3 hours. Looking down from the sky, several huge hoofprints fell on the stone field, and even the boulders that formed the array were all crushed. Sally leaned on the surface of a black and purple ball of meat, gasping for breath. She stared at Han Dong with a look of disbelief. "You are completely different from a year ago. How can my heavy stomp not hit you once? Where did you learn such a strange body movement? The Destiny Realm?" Sally's hooves could easily crush all hard objects, but when she tried to stomp on Han Dong during the battle, she always felt that she was stepping on the surface of a lake and couldn't hit the real body. "After all, I have completed door opening, so there will be some improvement. This body movement is indeed from Destiny, and it is very compatible with my own characteristics. It is specially used to deal with this kind of physical attack. Miss Sally, let's end it here tonight. How about ending it as a draw? If we continue to fight, both of us will have to use our trump cards. It is better to use these things in the upcoming battle. How about this? The victory and defeat between us will be in the London game. At that time, the final victory and defeat will be determined based on personal contribution to the battle. This is more objective, and the old kings who are watching the battle can be witnesses. A draw is a draw." Sally was very reluctant, but she could only accept. Han Dong's improvement speed was too shocking, even beyond her personal understanding. Thinking of this, Sally gently twisted her goat ears with her fingers and asked softly, "What's the matter? Your growth path came from fate, right? Is it really possible to rapidly increase one's strength in that place? If there's a chance in the future, can you bring me in to try it out? I should be able to be recognized by fate if I improve my humanoid form a little more." Due to personal reasons, Sally had always wanted to become stronger. If she could become a king, the burden on her shoulders would be greatly reduced. "Sure." Han Dong quickly nodded. "Can we do it now? There are still 4 months before the start of the game. Bring me there quickly." "I can't go now. The Destiny space has a cooldown period of 1 year, and I just opened the door. It will take some time, but what? However, I have some friends who might be going to the Destiny space in the near future. You can go with them." "No." Sally, who was lying on the bed, immediately covered half of her head with the quilt to express her refusal. "They are very strong, and they're also very experienced. If you follow them, there is a high probability that you can pass the game." "No means no. I only want to go with you." Han Dong finally reacted. "If that's the case, then we have to wait until the end of the London game. At that time, I just happen to have an agreement with Grimm." "Grimm? What agreement?" "Grimm will summon a few primordial substances and borrow their human shell or deep humanoid form. With me as a guide, I will bring everyone to the Destiny space. Of course, this includes Miss Sally." "Grimm. Okay." Sally's face was melancholy as she thought about something alone. Since the sparring was over, Han Dong tried to obtain some inside information from Sally. "Miss Sally, do you know when the other primordial substances will arrive in London? In addition, will they have a mythical body as their bodyguard?" "I don't know the exact time, but everyone will arrive in London at the latest 1 month before the game starts. As for the mythical bodies, it is also the entry rules set by the higher-ups. With the 10 of us as the unit of power, each power must provide 1 mythical body to participate in the game. Just as you guessed, each of the 10 primordial substances will have a mythical body by their side. Han Dong nodded and thought to himself, so there will be a total of 10 mythical bodies? They must be the best of the best, like that muscular old lady. Such rules will keep the balance. The power of the primordial substances will be equal to that of the human expeditionary force. The higher-ups who are secretly watching this game, do they want to use this more balanced way to verify the value of humans? When they left the Dreamlands, it was already the morning of the second day. When the hotel waiter who delivered breakfast saw Han Dong and Sally in the same room, his eyes were filled with admiration and worship. Sally was like a goddess among the hybrid demons. Now, this untouchable goddess was lying on the big bed with a tired but enjoyable look. The waiter naturally understood. Han Dong was too lazy to explain anything. After all, the situation here would not spread to the ears of the humans, and at the same time, it would increase his reputation among the Dark Dwellers, which was a good thing. Nicholas, since there's nothing going on recently, you've been accompanying me for the past few days? Han Dong scratched his head helplessly. Actually, I'm quite busy personally. The expeditionary force has just arrived in London, and there are still many things to deal with here. Today, I have to bring a few friends to the Destiny Realm in London. If I have time later, I'll take the initiative to contact Miss Sally. Can I go with you? I want to see how you humans get in. Sally was lying on the bed with her black eyes wide open, coupled with the rather cute goat ears and horns, as well as the slightly swaying tail. Han Dong could not refuse. Okay, but you have to change your clothes to avoid arousing suspicion. East City District, apartment C-31, Brighton Street. In front of the apartment assigned by the Raven's Whisper team, there was a series of knocks on the door. Demps was the only one who went forward to open the door. Nicholas, why are you only here now and so early? Everyone is still sleeping. After all, it's rare to have such a chance to rest after rushing all the way here. We were busy until late at night yesterday, and the captain delayed a lot of time. This is? Demps looked behind Han Dong, at a hybrid demon wrapped in an Evernight robe. Didn't you say you were going to the Destiny Realm? This instructor will follow me and bring you to the headquarters of the church. The Gate of Destiny is there. Since they haven't woken up yet, let them sleep. Han Dong led the instructor into the apartment. When Demps closed the door, he caught a glimpse of a pair of black goat hooves exposed under the robe. Chapter 1294. After closing the door, Demps said in a low voice, Nicholas, there seems to be a flock of sheep entering the city last night. Yes, I have contacted them directly. The flock of sheep has a neutral attitude towards humans. At the same time, I also received important information about the Hybrid Demon Coalition Army. The Hybrid Demons will send a total of 10 foreign aid teams based on the 10 primordial substances. Each foreign aid team has only one mythical body. Their overall strength is roughly equal to ours. Since Han Dong didn't want to take the initiative to talk about the personal instructor, Demps didn't ask more. Instead, he touched his chin and continued the conversation. If it's equal, then the intention is more obvious. The higher-ups are indeed giving humans a chance to prove themselves. It depends on whether we can seize it. Let's not talk about such a serious topic first. Come and relax. Demps had prepared a bottle of special essential oil in advance. Han Dong had consciously taken off his shirt, revealing a relatively thin black spiral torso. Compared to his previous thinness, he could now be described as lean. He couldn't wait to lie on the sofa and enjoy this long-lost cutting-edge experience. As the sixth finger quietly reached out and touched his back with a unique finger technique. Buzz, an extremely stimulating and comfortable feeling spread throughout his body like an electric current. Even some of the blocked meridians hidden in the depths that Han Dong didn't notice were immediately opened. Your body is different. Did you learn any physical skills in the Destiny space? Oh, floating corpse internal scripture, a kind of internal scripture technique that is inclined towards defense. It is very suitable for my body. Coincidentally, during the incident, I tracked down the source and obtained the inheritance pearl. The related characteristics have completely merged with my body. I can obtain the corresponding strengthening with the upgrade of my body. I don't need to practice any more techniques. Very good. According to my observation, this should be an A, or even its level body refining technique. A little to the left, there seems to be a bit of a blockage. The intimate contact between the two was seen by the instructor brought by Han Dong. Although the instructor was very concerned about Demp's sixth finger, she was more immersed in Han Dong's state. Her gaze lingered on Han Dong's bare upper body the whole time, not even blinking. Strands of liquid that could arouse the desires of all living things flowed out along the robe. Just as the liquid was about to drip onto the ground, she immediately remembered her current situation and sucked the liquid back into her body. Gulp, he swallowed his saliva and hurriedly looked away. If she continued to watch, she was afraid that she would be unable to control her emotions and completely lose her composure. Demps, are the three of you going to the Destiny Realm? Are there any other reinforcements? No. When we were in Minano, the Fate event we entered was called the Torture Chamber. It was divided into two parts. This time, the three of us will go to the next part of the story. If we can complete the chain of time, we will be rewarded with an additional talent point. If Abel, Mia, and I could give it a try, we still have a high chance of jumping from Tier 3 to Tier 5. We might even be able to open the door. The fifth stage and opening the door are not the same. Try your best to reach the ideal state before opening the door. Demps, you should know better than me. The depth of opening the door will determine your future development prospects. Tell Abel and Mia to be prepared. We'll only open the door after they've recovered their abilities. Don't worry, since you are not in the team. Nicholas, I will arrange everything. Abel is the future leader, the light of humanity. At this moment, the sleepy Mia slowly crawled out of the dormitory from the ceiling like a spider. When a young man that she had been thinking about appeared in her blurry vision, she was no longer sleepy. She even slapped her face with her hands to verify that she was not dreaming. Nicholas, you are back. Mia immediately went forward and pressed her face against Han Dong's arm, rubbing it back and forth. The moment she did this, a murderous intent that came out of nowhere scared Mia, and she looked around. Her gaze fell on the instructor in the corner. This is? Han Dong had also sensed the killing intent earlier, so he hurriedly put on his clothes and explained. He quickly put on his clothes and explained, a member of the Church of Evernight will take everyone to the Door of Destiny later. Mia, are you ready? Mia's face was full of reluctance. Do you want to go now? I want to stay with you for a while. Anyway, there's still 4 months. It doesn't matter if it is delayed for a few days. We haven't seen each other for a long time. I want to sleep with you tonight. The moment Mia said this, a drop of cold sweat slid down Han Dong's cheek. Han Dong was really afraid that a goat's hoof would suddenly descend and crush the entire apartment. I have already contacted London in advance. I have to go over today. Mia, you have to perform well and use the opportunity of the chain event to reach Tier 5 night in one fell swoop. Feeling the powerful aura from Han Dong, Mia also knew that the gap between them had been widened. Okay then, when I come back, I must sleep with you. I haven't seen you for more than a year. I miss you so much. Han Dong couldn't wait to stuff Mia's mouth. At this time, Abel, who had changed into a shirt and drooped his ears, also walked out of the room. Pieces of muscle lines similar to dragon scales could be seen clearly. Just as expected, Abel felt the aura from Han Dong. When he knew that the Door of Destiny had been opened, a great pressure fell on his heart. The sudden gap made him a little overwhelmed. In Abel's future plans, when he created a myth and replaced his grandfather to lead the Behemoth Knights, he wanted to rope in Han Dong to become the vice captain. Let's go. To the space of destiny. Abel's eyes were unusually determined. He was determined to perfectly clear the next Fate event and become a Tier 5 knight in one fell swoop. Then, he would use the beast hidden in his body to open the special door. During the journey to the Door of Destiny, Mia hugged Han Dong's arm and didn't want to let go. She kept asking Han Dong about his experience in the past year. It was quite intimate. He felt an inexplicable killing intent many times. Along the way, A trail of deep hoof prints was left behind. It was full of anger. We must ensure that we can survive first, then think about the additional reward. Let's meet again after we come out. Okay. Watching his former partner enter the door of destiny, Han Dong could finally breathe a sigh of relief. A terrifying aura immediately attacked from behind. The instructor who had been following behind had already taken off his robe and questioned with a gloomy face. Was the human girl just now your partner? Just a partner. Mia's personality is like that. She usually sticks to me. Sally was about to explode along the way, but after thinking carefully, she couldn't say anything. After all, she and Han Dong were just friends. Come to my room again tonight, Sally said in an almost commanding tone. Okay, when I'm done with everything, I'll come over. Han Dong was very helpless. At this moment, a strong tremor came from the ground. Han Dong and Sally immediately left the headquarters and returned to the streets of London. A tremor from outside the city? Who's coming? When they returned to the streets, they were shocked by the scene in front of them. A super-sized giant that was twice as tall as the city walls was slowly walking towards London. Every step brought an extremely strong tremor. Hope is coming. Chapter 1295. Seventh Origin Substance. Hope the Competitive in the previous London game. Hope participated in the game as Grimm's partner and displayed a terrifying power that no one could match. In terms of power alone, he was ranked first among the origin substances. A guy like Hope would definitely be the main character in a novel. He was born in a very humble place and belonged to the ancient giant with inferior bloodline. Many of the old Wangdu were unwilling to accept this kind of hybrid demon with low intelligence and limited growth as a believer. However, Hope was different. He had a normal brain and a body that could grow infinitely. Compared to the ancient giant that was only 4 to 10 meters tall, Hope's height had already exceeded 100 meters when he participated in the Origin Substance game. At the same time, he was growing with every battle. At present, outside London, a giant twice the height of the city wall was approaching. It was not a mythical body, but Hope himself. The scariest thing about Hope was the anthropomorphic form he displayed was not mixed with any secret technique impurities. It was just a simple compression of the body. In the form of physical compression, he forcibly maintained the physique of a normal person. It was like a walking human-shaped nuclear bomb. Sally stared at Hope's physique, and the pressure in her heart also increased. She commented in a low voice, "Hope has grown again. Hopper has grown up again. His progress is too fast. No wonder he was chosen by ultimate ancestral god, US. Come, let's go pick him up." Han Dong took Sally's hand and used spatial means to come to the top of the city wall, directly opposite Hope. When the two familiar smells reached the giant's nose, sizzle. Thick steam constantly escaped from the giant's muscles and skin. The body was constantly being compressed. In less than 10 seconds, Hope had already turned into a hairy human male and landed on the city wall, similar to the original human pike in Blade Fangs. He controlled the pressure points under his feet to avoid accidentally stepping on the city wall and collapsing it. Perfect. It was an absolutely perfect body proportion in ancient times. It would not be an exaggeration to call such a body a top work of art. Mr. Nicholas, Miss Sally. Hope looked very barbaric, but his speech and behavior were very gentlemanly. He even bowed to the two of them. In his eyes, Sally was the young mistress of the Black Forest. Be it in terms of strength or bloodline, she was superior to him. Nicholas was even more special. He was an absolute powerhouse recognized by Grimm. Since Grimm regarded him as a friend, he was also Grimm's friend. Han Dong asked curiously, "That's right. Hope, why are you here alone?" According to Miss Sally, each origin essence should correspond to a force, right? My people are still too weak. Even the strongest ancient good giant is only a mature form. Therefore, I've been granted special permission to travel to London alone. Being alone is pretty good. Han Dong's eyes lit up as an idea formed in his mind. In that case, Hopper, why don't you stay in my manor? Can I? Hopper also expressed a strong interest. To be able to build a manor in London was not something an ordinary person could enjoy. Of course. Come with me. Sally had only just found out that Han Dong had a manor in London. Apparently, only his biological mother could grant him such authority. She was very interested and followed along. As a sub-city, the manor was close to the eastern wall. However, it was not included in the human residential area. The entrance was hidden in the depths of a dark street. Han Dong did not want the expeditionary army to know about the manor. At the same time, even his biological mother and priest who managed London knew very little about it. The manor involved too much of Han Dong's research results and trump card for the battle. Han Dong wanted to turn his research into an important bargaining chip at a critical moment. As the three of them walked through the dark street, Han Dong unexpectedly smelled a familiar human scent. As the interaction plan had been officially implemented, humans were allowed to go to other areas of London to communicate and interact with the local dark residents. Currently, on the opposite side of the street where Han Dong was, there was a slightly hunchbacked human knight wrapped in a cloak. He would stop for a while every time he passed by a shop, as if he wanted to buy some unique materials in London. As Han Dong looked over, the other party looked over as well. A pair of clear light blue eyes were clearly visible in the dark. They seemed to be able to see through some of Han Dong's secrets. The knight also looked at the two friends beside Han Dong at the same time. Powerhouse. This exchange of glances instantly made Hopper excited. His muscle cells were in a state of excitement. Han Dong could not stop him in time. Hopper's terrifying body exploded with incredible speed and was already in front of the knight. He threw a punch. A powerful wave of air reverberated through the entire street. A fan-shaped crater was blasted out in the direction the fist was facing. However, this punch only tore the cloak apart and did not hit the target. A knight with sparse hair, dark circles under his eyes, and a slightly hunchbacked figure wearing a small vest stood on top of Hopper's fist with his toes on the ground. This human, how'd he do it? Even Sally was surprised. Her knowledge of humans was very shallow. At first, she even thought that Han Dong was the most powerful of the human race. Just as Hopper was about to throw another punch, a total of 10 terrifying puppets floated around Hopper. Each of them had different attributes and attack methods. Red light glowed in their eyes as they activated their killing mode. Hopper immediately held his breath in his body. The next giant's roar could raise everything within 100 meters to the ground. It could also shake these puppets away or even directly shatter them. It's a misunderstanding. At this critical moment, Han Dong squeezed between the two using the void technique and forcibly stopped this sudden conflict. Seeing this, Hopper hurriedly stopped. He understood the relationship between the host and the guest. As a guest in London, he naturally had to obey the arrangements of Han Dong, the host. Charlie hesitated for a moment and also put the puppets back into his body. Why is a human here? And a very powerful human. Is this your friend as well? Nicholas. Hopper was born as an inferior ancient giant and did not reject humans at all. The reason why he attacked was because he smelled the aura of a powerhouse on Charlie. I forgot to explain to you that the human expeditionary army has officially entered. When the time comes, they will resist the invasion together with everyone. This is my senior, Knight Charlie. Senior Charlie, these two are my friends. I'll explain the details to you later. Han Dong was a little embarrassed. He had only greeted the commander. He did not expect to bump into Charlie here with two origin demons beside him. It was really hard to explain. No need to explain. If you have something to do, go ahead. By the way, do you know where in London there are shops that sell rare materials? Han Dong quickly handed over a map and circled a commercial street on it. Thank you. Charlie's fingers moved the thin thread and quickly weaved a cloak to cover his body. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the darkness. Han Dong sighed softly. Senior Charlie is still so strong. Nicholas, will we meet this person again in the future? Hopper was now very interested in Charlie. Of course, if Charlie is also interested, I'll arrange for you to spar. Han Dong would seize this opportunity to improve the relationship between humans and hybrid demons. Moreover, with his upgraded eyes, Han Dong could clearly see that Charlie's expression just now had flashed with interest in Hopper and Sally several times. Or rather, it was a kind of potential resonance. A resonance that was not limited to races but only between geniuses. Chapter 1296. They turned from a street into a dark path. The proliferating eyeballs between the walls recognized Han Dong's face before withdrawing from the barrier. A hollowed-out, pitch-black door engraved with metal patterns appeared in front of them. Caw! The mournful cries of crows pierced the ears of the visitors like needles. Grotesque and twisted withered trees were densely planted outside the manor, with some blood crystals embedded on the tree trunks. Other than the usual rotten and foul smell in the air, there was also a unique and rich smell of corpse oil. Looking along the stone path into the depths of the manor, one could see neatly arranged buildings. There are different types of hybrid demons living inside, including crowmen, ghouls, blood descendants, murlocs. There are also all kinds of mechanical modified bodies and hybrids. The large manor in the center emitted a bright blood-red luster. Currently, the manor had the most eye-catching new feature. Black smoke that emitted the rich smell of corpse oil was constantly rising from the ground, and there was an overflow 5 meters away. Thick and heavy black smoke was constantly gathering in the sky, dyeing the clouds black and effectively increasing the concealment of the manor. Sally believed that she had seen a lot of hybrid demons, but she had never seen such an area. Other than the diversity of hybrid demons that was similar to a neutral city, Han Dong's manor was also mixed with external factors that did not belong to the hybrid demon world. These factors that should not have appeared at the same time, but under Han Dong's control, they were perfectly mixed together. What is this black smoke? It seems to be able to resist the nameless fog to a certain extent. Han Dong pointed to the ground and explained, "It is a special substance that I brought out from the Destiny realm with points. It is related to corpses. Currently, I have set up an underground laboratory to create, purify, and improve this substance. I'm trying to fuse it with ghouls. If it can be fused effectively, I might be able to create a special army that cannot be measured by conventional data. Please keep this matter a secret for me, and do not disclose it to the public for the time being. It will be useful at critical moments." Okay, since Han Dong brought the two of them into the manor, he did not intend to keep it secret. As long as the core technology was not leaked, this information on the surface did not matter. Under Han Dong's lead, the three of them walked into the depths of the manor. "Welcome back, my lord." The hybrid demons living in the manor all sent their most sincere greetings to Han Dong. Although they could sense how powerful Sally and Hopper were, they were not afraid at all. As long as Han Dong gave the order, they would pounce on the two of them like crazy. Scarlet Mansion, a familiar figure, had already appeared in the open-air balcony area, waving at Han Dong, who was at the entrance. The moist and iconic meaty thigh could be identified at a glance. Spotted Toad, Meritus had contributed greatly to the project of purifying the East City District. It was through her water and Nicole's help that all the darkness pollution in the city had been covered up. When Mary saw the two guests beside Han Dong, her whole body trembled and water overflowed from her body onto the balcony. Whoosh! Spatial transfer, Meritus immediately came to the front door and greeted the two distinguished guests with human etiquette. "Miss Sally, Mr. Hopper, welcome." Just as she lowered her head, a perfectly proportioned black goat leg stepped into Mary's field of vision. The aura of the origin was accompanied by an interrogative tone. "You live here as well?" "Yes. Mr. Nicholas allowed me to stay here." Hearing this answer, Sally finally could not hold it in anymore. She glared at Han Dong fiercely and made a request on the spot. "I want to stay here as well, and I have to stay in the same room as you. If the goats have no objections, Miss Sally can stay here as you wish. As for Aunt Ingrid, I'll think of a way to convince her. I'll move my things over tomorrow." Sally looked up and down at the spotted toad-like creature that Han Dong was rather close to. When her gaze stopped at the large meat thigh that was dripping with water, even Sally was tempted. They had met before. Back then, Meritus was Han Dong's partner and participated in the London game together. Sally had always remembered this point in her heart. Sensing the awkwardness in the atmosphere, Han Dong suddenly thought of an idea and quickly gave a friendly suggestion. Since Miss Sally wants to stay here, Meritus, bring Miss Mary to take a look at the room first. If you have time, you can also walk around and familiarize yourself with this place in advance. I'll go to the underground laboratory with Hopper and be back later. Meritus was very afraid of Sally. This was because of the suppression of the origin and the hostility that Sally emitted. Unexpectedly, the goat took a step forward. Sally actually took the initiative to hold Meritus' arm and stuck out several purple tongues from her mouth, licking the water that kept flowing out of Mary's body. Sure, you guys go. Let Sister Mary show me around the manor. Before leaving, Han Dong reminded them worriedly, the two of you must get along well. Underground laboratory, Han Dong brought Hopper, the ancient giant, with a special identity here for selfish reasons. First, he showed Hopper the full view of the experimental area. After a simple explanation of the various experimental areas and the related principles, he showed the power of Ghoul, modified through actual combat. It evoked the fire of hope in Hopper's heart that originated from his race. I can't believe such a lowly ghoul could become so powerful. Mr. Nicholas, can this technology be used on the bodies of my people? Seeing that the bait was bitten, Han Dong looked calm and was not in a hurry to lift the rod. I heard that Hopper's talent was valued by an old king. Did this old king not provide assistance in the growth of your people? Lord Wusa has indeed taken our people as vassals. We can obtain the gift given by the Lord through various offerings, a kind of ultimate flesh and blood that can completely transform the body. However, an ancient giant that can bear this kind of flesh and blood is extremely rare. In essence, it can't change the current situation of our people. Is that so? My technology is currently only used on ghouls. Moreover, the origin of this technology is not simple at all. It took me decades of research, including the foreign knowledge that I risked my life to bring out from the Destiny realm. This technology will be an important bargaining chip in the future, so I'm not willing to take it out for the time being. Indeed, this is your personal wealth. Han Dong stared at the somewhat disappointed Hopper and took the opportunity to immediately pull the rod back. I can understand the weight you bear, Hopper. After all, other than bearing the heavy title of origin substance, you also have to support the entire race by yourself. How about this? Let's try to sign a confidentiality agreement first. I will provide some technical talents in the field of transformation to try to transform the ancient giant's body. As a guarantee for the technology, personnel, and confidentiality agreement, I hope you can sign a cooperation agreement with me. Han Dong used the ability given by the Yellow Seal to create two soul agreements. One for the confidentiality of the technology and the other for the private cooperation with Hopper. The cooperation agreement will not restrict any of your freedom. You only need to provide a certain amount of giant cells from you. It's up to you, Hopper. Chapter 1297. Scarlet Mansion. Everything related to Hopper had been settled. In fact, the main reason Han Dong tried to privately sign a contract with Hopper was to rope him in and make him a reliable ally. As for the giant cell, it was just an extra experiment. For a lowly hybrid demon like Hopper to be able to sit on the position of the 7th prime, it would definitely attract a lot of attention. There would definitely be many who wanted to study Hopper's body. After all, there were many scientists in the hybrid demon world. The ancient that Han Dong brought back from the South Pole was one of them. However, until now, there was only one ancient giant like Hopper, which meant that the related research had not produced any results. Han Dong did not have much hope for the giant's cell. In any case, it was definitely not a loss to rope and prime. Hopper, this room is made of special stone. It should be able to withstand your weight. If you have any needs, you can ask the Blood Servant or Crow Servant in the mansion. As for sparring with humans, I will arrange it as soon as possible. May the giant rock of Costa bless you, Mr. Nicholas. Hopper also spent nearly 10 days to travel to London. As soon as he laid down on the hard stone bed prepared for him, he immediately closed his eyes and fell asleep. The thunderous snoring required a separate isolation barrier in the room. It's finally done. Hopper is now completely on my side. In the next 4 months, I can use his strength to train my body. Now I have to quickly check on Sari's situation. The black goat's possessiveness is stronger than I expected. Han Dong quickened his pace to the room. He even had a few terrifying images of the toad being used as a drug primer in his mind. Open the door. Han Dong was already mentally prepared to check the murder scene. No one. In the bathroom? Han Dong's mind was already filled with scenes that were commonly seen in mystery movies, where the murderer dismembered the body in the bathroom. The moment he slid open the bathroom door, Han Dong was stunned. Amaritus was lying in the bathtub, as usual. However, there was one more person in the bathtub this time. On the other side of the bathtub was the new tenant, Sally Lovehooves. Currently, several tongues with sensitive synapses stretched out from Sally's mouth and licked Mary's big meat thigh in an extremely enjoyable way. Such a strong sense of touch forced Mary to clasp her hands tightly to the edge of the bathtub, and her body would tremble from time to time. While licking her thigh, Sally asked with the extra mouth that grew out of her cheek, "Nicholas, has Hopper's matter been settled?" "It's settled. Are you sure you want to move in?" Of course, I didn't expect his toads to be so delicious, and this little sister Mary is also very obedient. I had seen some toad demons in neutral cities before, but Sister Mary was completely different. Her thighs were truly addictive. We're already very familiar with each other. It'll be more restrictive if we stay with the sheep. At least we have company here. All right, just like that, Han Dong unexpectedly settled the too famous origin substance in his manner. In the next few days, Han Dong still played the role of a busy man. In addition to coordinating the relationship between humans and hybrid demons, he also needed to cooperate with the doctor in the petrification experiment. The progress of the experiment was quite slow, and ghouls that were injected with death energy had a high probability of dying. According to the in-depth dissection of the corpse by Han Dong and the doctor, they finally came to a conclusion. In order to achieve the petrification of ghouls, not only did they need to transform their bodies, but they also needed to design a suitable burial place and create a burial environment similar to the tomb world. Thus, a large cemetery area was expanded in the manor. At the same time, Han Dong also met with Charlie. 10 origin substances. I have to say, the hybrid demon that followed you a few days ago was indeed different. It was completely different from the atavistic body we encountered during the expedition. If the other party is interested, I can make time here. Since Charlie had agreed to it, Han Dong immediately pulled the strings and applied for a special space for combat from his mother. This space could withstand the normal attacks of a mythical body. The result of the first competition was unexpected. Black Goat Sally was also a spectator, watching the competition with Han Dong. The competition between Charlie and the hominid Hope ended in a draw, which also made Sally very interested in humans. Day 31 of the Expeditionary Army stationed in London. Outside London, the corners of the dark forest emitted bursts of green light. Any creature that approached this place would be infected with the plague, and in a short period of time, their entire body would be covered with eyeballs. Eventually, they would sink inward and turn into an eyeball floating in the air. A young man with green hair, ragged clothes, and a foul smell was slowly walking in the forest while munching on an eyeball burger. Behind him was a stone coffin engraved with the ancient's secret seal. Sealed inside was a rather terrifying long-handled weapon. Fifth origin substance, the awesome eugenist. Because the schooner's army was still being formed, and for some special reasons, they could not arrive until the game began. Eugenist had to apply to the old king to go to London alone first. Compared to a year ago, Eugenist had also undergone a great change. Through the human body developed by his own ancient, he successfully went to the Destiny space and cleared it. He had gained a lot of benefits from it. Now, he could perfectly control the Destiny weapon. At the same time, his personal temper had become more irritable because of Han Dong's experience in the Antarctic Circle. Along the way, All life that came within 100 meters of him died. He was like a walking plague of death. Nicholas, this time I will win the London game. I will prove my value in front of the superiors. I will possess and replace your body in front of them. Huh, peeping at me. You're courting death. Eugenis' keen perception found that someone was silently watching him in the forest. He suspected that it was a high-level scout sent by London. A wave of green plague immediately went after the source of his perception. Who knew? When the plague successfully captured the target and was ready to infect and erode, a pale flame ignited in the forest. Such a flame could even devour the dark matter in the forest in reverse. The plague released by Eugenis was burned up in an instant. Immediately after, a pale flame followed the path of the plague and approached Eugenis. When the coat was ignited, Eugenis felt a cold, burning sensation. Gurgle, gurgle. Eugenis spat out a large amount of excrement from his mouth and completely extinguished the pale flame before it could erode his body. To be precise, it was a kind of equipotential offset. At the same time, a distant voice came from the forest. Eugenis, long time no see. Feeling the soul-burning pain in his chest, Eugenis' expression was extremely ugly. Resentment, ferociousness, but mixed with a hint of fear. He uttered a name that was also engraved on the origin stone tablet. Third origin substance, the incomparably rational Aslan, as he spoke. A man in a white shirt and black trousers slowly walked out of the forest with his hands in his pockets. He had a nose that was as straight as a mountain peak and a pair of enigmatic small eyes. The most eye-catching thing was this person's burning, icy flame hair. Chapter 1298. As Eugenis stared at the flame-haired youth walking out of the forest, he recalled some of the bad experiences that happened in the origin game. Although Aslan was different from Grim and wouldn't go on a killing spree, he wasn't familiar with Grim in terms of danger. The ice flame that came from his body was one of the abilities that Eugenis feared the most. When the flame-haired youth appeared, he held 2 flint stones in his right hand. As his fingers moved rhythmically, the stones rubbed and rotated between his palms. Occasionally, sparks would overflow from his palms. Eugenis, I heard about the London game from a year ago. Your performance seemed to be very average. In the end, the ones who won were Grim and a nobody. Eugenis replied with a displeased expression. What do you know? With Grim in the game, no one has a chance of winning even if they want to participate. It's the same even if you came. That kid won because he joined forces with Grim in the later stages of the game and killed a mythical invader head-on. Aslan leaned toward Eugenis with interest and continued to ask, Oh, what kind of lunatic can join forces with Grim? There's a high probability that he'll be killed on the way due to Grim's change in temperament. Even if he's lucky enough not to be killed, his thoughts will unknowingly fall into the abyss. Moreover, when it comes to the final victory of the London game, according to Grim's personality, he'll never allow others to stand on the same level as him. From your description, then nobody seems to have a good relationship with Grim. Do you know that guy? Having said that, Eugenis had to admit that Han Dong was something. He didn't quite understand how Han Dong got involved with Grim, and it was a kind of hard relationship. After the game ended, Grim even took the initiative to invite Han Dong to the core of the chaos. However, Eugenis wasn't obligated to give Han Dong any information. What does it have to do with you whether I know him or not? Last time, the London game had a paid exit option. Once you guys knew that Grim would participate, you all borrowed the power behind you to spend a sum of resources and chose to withdraw. Now, you want to get information from me. How laughable. That kid is very interesting. Don't be played to death by him, Aslan. Aslan revealed a very sunny smile. He wasn't angry at Eugenis' words. Instead, he raised a topic. What you said makes sense. After all, this is information that you obtained with your life as a bargaining chip. I won't force you to give me information. But Eugene, you should be familiar with London. Can you take me there? You shouldn't refuse such a small favor. After all, we are all polar circle beings. It's just that the location is different. Aslan's birthplace was the opposite of Eugene's, located in the North Pole. The North Pole had another name during the Great Ice Age. It was called the Land of the End of the North, and it was once a land of dispute between many gods. Pa! Aslan snapped his fingers. A soul-shaking chill spread throughout the dark forest. Layers of highly concealed haze slowly dissipated, and the army from the Arctic Circle descended behind Aslan. The attitude displayed by the army was unique. This was a primitive form of marching passed down from the northern continent. Iceberg. It was an extremely fat white worm that was over 100 meters long and exuded a mythical aura. It was dragging the giant iceberg that had been transported from the Arctic through chains and meat embedded in it. The forces belonging to Aslan were sealed between the iceberg. Through the pure layer of ice, it could be clearly seen that the Polar Circle fiends were in deep sleep, maintaining their optimal state through this deep sleep. Eugene was also shocked by the iceberg in front of him and was stunned on the spot. At this moment, a palm landed on Eugene's shoulder. Lead the way, Eugene. The game this time isn't about us competing with each other, but fighting against an external enemy together. Before your schooner's army arrives, I will lend you a part of my forces, so that you won't be able to gain an advantage on the eve of the battle due to your weak forces. I think you want to put on a good show in this game, right? Follow me. Eugene forcefully suppressed the violent emotions in his heart. Although on the surface, he was temporarily cooperating with Aslan, but he would retaliate once he had the chance. Eugene, who was also a prime, knew very well that Aslan was definitely not someone he could cooperate with for a long time. When the giant worm carried the exaggerated iceberg into the basin in the north, the area immediately froze. The area immediately turned into a frozen state. The layer of ice immediately covered the flowers and Blackstone path, and the temperature plummeted. Even London, which was shrouded in the title deed, could feel the chill coming from outside the city. Han Dong's communication instructor immediately came to the manor through the unique dark passage and reported the situation to the bishop who was conducting zombie experiments. Iceberg, worm. When he heard this, a mechanical sound came from the brain of the swollen doctor, and he immediately told him the information he knew. The third prime comes from Aslan in the Arctic Circle. You must be careful with this guy. Rumor has it that the ice flame he controls is the final legacy of the northern ultimate continent. It can ignore individual defense and directly burn the soul. Okay, I'll go take a look first. When Han Dong left the underground area, Hominoid Hope and Black Goat Sally also felt the chill and were waiting at the entrance of the manor. They seemed to be planning to follow Han Dong to welcome him. It's better for me to go alone. The relationship between us needs to be hidden for now. I want to use my own eyes to examine the prime that I haven't seen before. If you guys are by my side, he might deliberately hide and not reveal his true self. Hope didn't mind. Seeing that Han Dong didn't need his company, he immediately headed for the Expeditionary Army's territory. In the past month, Hope had become familiar with many elite knights, and daily sparring was an indispensable entertainment. Sally said worriedly, "Don't worry. Nicholas, you must be careful of Aslan. This person is a dangerous person who prioritizes benefits. I personally recommend not to get close to him or try to rope him in. If any conflict breaks out between the two of you, I'll get Sister Mary to bring me over to provide support using spatial means. Don't worry, I'm the Evernight Bishop. Who dares to touch me in my mother's territory?" Feeling the increasing chill, Han Dong didn't stay any longer. He immediately led a group of Evernight members to the northern city gate. With the dark candle as a node, the members rendered a black flow picture to welcome the foreign aid from the Arctic Circle. This iceberg is actually a marching vehicle. I've never seen such a scene in Antarctica. Han Dong, who was in the lead, was also shocked when he saw the iceberg up close. However, Han Dong's sharp nose, which the Count had provided him, allowed him to smell the unusual scent of the creatures in the polar circle. It was a rotten, foul smell that resembled excrement. It was a smell that Han Dong was extremely familiar with. It was the same. Eugenius, who was in charge of leading the way, also smelled an extremely foul smell. It was also a smell that he smelled in his dreams every day. Eugenius, Nicholas. The moment they met, The two of them opened their eyes at the same time. A protruding object appeared in Eugenis' throat. It was an eyeball that had been passed down since ancient times. However, when Eugenis tried to invade the target's brain with this eyeball, his vision was covered by a black vortex. Chapter 1299. It was the first time Eugenis had encountered such a situation where his eye power was on par with his. He even felt a potential danger in the black vortex and immediately retracted the eyeball back into his body. In contrast, when Han Dong tried to suppress Eugenis with the vortex, he found that it was difficult to restrain Eugenis' eye. It seemed that the eye power corresponding to the two eyes was on the same level. Eugenis' feeling is obviously different from a year ago. Could it be that he really went to the Destiny realm during this period of time with the help of the Ancient One's technology? Although the aura emitted from his body is still so unpleasant, his overall appearance is closer to that of a human. The item sealed in the sarcophagus on his back must be the stone spear. Judging from Eugenis' appearance, he should be able to fully control it. It's a little troublesome. While Han Dong was making an assessment, Eugenis also came to some conclusions based on the observation just now, some unsettling conclusions. This guy actually managed to open the door before the game started, and his eye power has undergone a qualitative improvement. He can fight against my eye power of the same level. As expected of you, Nicholas, it seems that I really need to join forces with Aslan for the time being. After Eugenis retracted the eyeball, he did not take any further action. He only sent a message to Han Dong alone. You've improved a lot. The various signs of transformation in London's East District and the different enchantment I saw. I think you've led the human expeditionary army into it. Remember to remind the so-called knights not to wander around London. It'll be troublesome if they get infected with the plague. I'll see you in the city. The voice transmission ended. Eyeballs began to emerge from the surface of Eugenis' skin. When the eyeballs covered his entire body, he achieved invisibility and hid behind the Polar Circle army. Han Dong's expression did not change. He immediately put the matter of Eugenis to the back of his mind and greeted the visitor from the Polar Circle with a normal attitude. Compared to Eugenis, he was more concerned about the third prime essence from the North Pole. When his gaze was fixed on a young man whose hair was in the shape of pale ice flames, Han Dong also felt an inexplicable sense of danger. However, this danger was not particularly strong. Perhaps it had something to do with Han Dong's own characteristics. Everyone, you've come a long way. It's been hard on you. I'm the bishop in charge of reception, Warren Nicholas. If you have any needs for accommodation or area of the venue, you can ask me directly. I will try my best to provide the most suitable accommodation. Who knew? The flame-haired young man put on a kind and sunny smile and stepped forward to shake hands with Han Dong. The moment their palms touched, Han Dong had a very strange feeling. The skin that came into contact with it felt extremely cold. But under his skin, there was a completely opposite burning sensation. Of course, this was a normal temperature sensing and would not cause any harm to Han Dong. Aslan Barbo, nice to meet you. To be able to sit on the bishop's seat at such a young age, you must be the human who won the championship together with Grimm in the last London game, right? Aslan's words were straightforward. Han Dong also nodded his head naturally. I'll leave the accommodation to Mr. Nicholas. I only have one opinion. I hope there's enough space to put iceberg. Personally, I don't care where I live. All right, please follow me. During the simple communication, Han Dong already had a faint feeling of discomfort. He always felt that Aslan's face was wearing several layers of masks. It was basically impossible to see her true nature through simple communication and contact, compared to Eugenis, who was slightly disguised and exuded evil at any time. Aslan made Han Dong feel even more uncomfortable. Entering the city, when the white worm that was dragging the giant iceberg approached the city gate, it still followed the London Treaty and carried out anthropomorphization. Han Dong was about to send his disciples to carry the iceberg with the help of the Dark Power, but he was stopped by Aslan. You don't have to worry about the iceberg. Mr. Weems can lift such an iceberg easily. If it wasn't for the force restriction, we would have brought a bigger iceberg. Right, Mr. Weems? When Aslan turned around, the mythological worm behind her turned into a fat and strong man with white flesh hanging from his body and a white beard on his face. On the surface of his swollen belly, there was a worm mark that curled up into a ball. With the body of a human, he could also lift the iceberg above his head. City Gate expansion. Han Dong immediately used part of the land deed authority given by his mother to expand the city gate to the size of the iceberg. In this way, the polar circle force brought by the Third Origin officially entered the city of London. Han Dong also noticed that such a polar circle force did not contain any Shugas. In other words, Eugenius came alone. This was very good for the expeditionary army. If such an evil and huge species like Shugas moved around in the city of London, it would bring great inconvenience to human social interactions. Iceberg was placed in a large open space near the city wall in the western part of the city. Aslan and Mr. Weems, who was transformed by the worm, lived in a single building close to the iceberg. With the iceberg as the center, the surrounding 5 blocks were all affected by the polar circle climate. White snow fell, the streets were frozen. If it wasn't for the restrictions of the land deed, the entire city of London would probably be covered in a layer of ice. If you have any questions, you can find the local teachers. Please be sure to follow the relevant rules of the City of London. Of course, we will definitely follow the rules set by our mother. But I have a question. Mr. Nicholas seems to have deliberately placed us in the westernmost part of the city. According to my observations along the way, there seems to be a group of people who committed serious crimes in the ancient times living in the eastern part of the city. They were called by the old kings, humans. I have also heard about the London game this time. It seems that humans will be participating in it. I wonder, what do you think of these humans, Bishop? I am a human. I hope that I can live in harmony with Mr. Aslan. Han Dong replied with a smile. Aslan's gaze changed. Her burning hair also became much gentler. Her squinted eyes slightly widened. She purposely moved closer and pressed her lips against Han Dong's ear. If that's the case, humans are also my friends. That's right. Bishop, you still have to be careful. There will be many forces coming in this game. Some of the hybrid demons are not as easy to talk to as me. If the humans are in any danger, we will provide assistance. Thank you. He turned around and left. After walking out of the street, Han Dong's expression became a little stiff. Today's welcome made Han Dong a little unhappy. He even wanted to welcome Eugenius alone. It didn't matter even if they had a fight. Sure enough, the friendliness of the primordial is only an isolated phenomenon. I can basically confirm one thing. The primordial who participated in the last London game, except for Grimm, all have a characteristic weak background. Whether it was Shugus, who was hiding in the depths of the South Pole Meat Mountain, or the Black Forest, who was in urgent need of marriage with other forces for some reason, or the ancient good giants who were born lowly, were all like this. They did not have the capital to reject the invitation of the first London game. And the primordial who will come to the city of London next all have a bigger background. It is extremely difficult to rope them in without a foundation of relationships. But, sure enough, they're all terrifyingly strong. Come quickly. I can't wait to see the full appearance of the 10 great primordial. Chapter 1300. Scarlet Manor, Lord's Room. On the plush sofa next to the fireplace, Merida sat on one side of the sofa with a dull look. Black Goat Sally was completely lying on the sofa by using her legs as a pillow. She was enjoying the pleasure of her body and mind. Occasionally, she would fiercely bite Mary's thigh. Han Dong had already returned from the city and was observing the tomb area that was being expanded by the windowsill. Sally, that guy really makes people uncomfortable. Staying beside Eugene would make one smell an extreme stench, but staying beside Aslan would make one feel an evil from the bottom of one's heart. What's the background of this guy? Sally slowly answered the question through a mouth that had grown out of her cheek. The difference in the polar circle is very big. The South Pole, where Eugene was located, was an invasion point. As a result, the ancient race was almost extinct. A large amount of technology was lost with the death of the ancient race's higher-ups. The once prosperous and glorious Meat Mountain City had now become a waste dump. But the North Pole where Aslan was located was different. The final North Continent, in ancient times, was once recognized as the core of this planet. Many of the old Wangdu had set foot on this continent and even lived there for a long time. When the world cataclysm ended, a large area of the final North Continent sank and the disputes of the old kings came to an end. However, the treasures buried deep in the North Pole still existed. Compared to the South Pole, that was like a garbage dump, the North Pole could be considered as a land of treasures. Other than the title of Prime, Aslan was also known as the final North Continent's orphan. The information about how he was born was not confirmed, but there were many bloodlines of the old kings mixed in his body. With his uniqueness, the Polar Circle Force had been established in the North Pole. He basically inherited all the wealth left behind by the final North Continent. This person is absolutely selfish. Don't have too much interaction with him, and try not to have any conflicts of interest with him. Personally, I hate this guy more. Han Dong nodded. When he was observing the huge iceberg, he could also see that there were many forces behind Aslan, and even many old kings. Han Dong took the opportunity to change the topic. More annoying. Seems like there's an existence among the 10 Prime that you hate more. Sally? Is it green? No, it's another female life form. That woman is very dangerous. You must call me when you meet her. When Meritus heard this, she immediately thought of a famous figure in the hybrid demon circle, a very dangerous female individual. She even had a certain connection with the Toad clan. Is it the one living in the depths of the Dreamlands? Looks like Little Sister Mary is also very clear about this. That's right. After all, you Toad demons are part of the outer circle of the Dreamlands. However, Little Sister Mary must have only heard rumors and never seen the real person, right? Next time, when Han Dong goes out of the city to welcome him as a bishop, let's go together. Meritus had heard horror stories about the Dream Woman since she was a child. As a result, she had never dared to approach the depths of Dreamlands, or rather, most of the Toad demons did not dare to approach. On a small island near the west coast of the English mainland, the lush, primitive jungle was preserved here. Other than the influence of the eternal night, there was no other form of pollution. There was a group of special humans living here. They were all women and kept the most primitive and native clothing. Only leaves covered the important parts of their body. On their heads, they wore a petal mask carved out of wood. Currently, thousands of islanders seem to be guided by some kind of miracle. They all gathered in the center of the island and fell into a state of deep sleep in a unique way. The bodies of the sleeping witches were stacked on top of each other like a small mountain. In their sleep, their consciousness was pulled by an invisible force and was led to the perfect world that they had been seeking all their lives. It was equivalent to the heaven that Christians sought. Dreamlands, their consciousness would allow them to live forever in the Dreamlands. And their bodies in the real world would be the foundation that connected the Dreamlands to reality. Creak, creak, soft and tender roots grew from the bottom layer of the witches' bodies. These roots would penetrate the upper layer of the witches' bodies and stimulate the growth of more plants. Intertwined, 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 finally, with the stacked witches' bodies as the foundation, a flower about 100 meters high grew. This spectacle on the island could be seen from the west coast dozens of nautical miles away. The flower bud bloomed. A female with a gentle and beautiful body crawled out from within. Different heights, different positions, different vision, different brain. Even if one looked at this female at different times and in different places, they would get different visual feedback. But no matter what kind of feedback it was beautiful for the viewer. How long has it been since I came to reality? The human body is really not easy to use. I don't know why the Lord Grey Matter set such a rule. Well, everyone needs to move around London as a human. This kind of role-playing game should be very interesting. Maybe I can meet the human that I like. The woman still had half of her body in the flower. Looking in the direction of the city of London from his present height, he was surprised to see a startling spectacle. Above London, the thick fog was suddenly dispelled by something from the sky. More than 10 meteorites emitting brilliant light were descending at an extremely fast speed. Boom! When the meteorites hit the ground, the sky was full of light. Even she could feel a faint tremor from where she was. It seems that everyone is early. I have to hurry. The female creature still embedded her lower body in the flower. The 100-meter-high witch flower was used as a carrier. The emerald green tentacles and roots slowly detached from the ground, carrying the huge flower and the female creature embedded in it toward London. At the same time, the city of London sounded a special alarm because of the meteorite landing. Including the surrounding villages, they all set up barriers to avoid the sudden meteorite disaster as much as possible. Very fortunately, these meteorites did not hit any village, and the impact point was at least more than 1,000 meters away from London. It was like a planned fixed-point landing. The scattered meteorite fragments were not inanimate objects. They immediately changed. Metal tentacles grew out from the cracks of the rocks. In half a minute, they gathered on the west side of the London basin to form an alien hybrid demon force. The leader was a red-haired young man who had completed the anthropomorphic transformation. The young man's chest was a hollow structure with a rotating red planet suspended in it. Chapter 1301. I'm Bishop Nicholas of the Church of Evernight in London. Welcome to the party. Mantis demons with metal tentacles walked out of the crater in the meteorite. Han Dong led the Church of Evernight members to welcome them. When his gaze landed on the red-haired youth, Han Dong could feel a powerful and even endless energy. When he tried to spy with his demonic eye, the dazzling energy light almost occupied his entire field of vision, rapidly depleting the demonic eye's energy. Especially when he spied on the red planet on the youth's chest, the intense light forced the demonic eye to automatically shut down. If Hominoid Hope was a humanoid nuclear bomb, this person was a humanoid nuclear power plant. In addition, this red-haired young man's appearance was relatively ordinary. His rough skin was covered with connective tissue that resembled lunar craters. Seeing that Han Dong had come to welcome them on behalf of London, the red-haired youth politely introduced himself. The 10th Prime Essence, King Star, Vader Cousins. This time, I'm under orders from the main star and other superiors to head to London to provide war support. May I ask, do you have any lodging or venue requirements for staying in London? Vader hurriedly waved his hand and refused. There's no need to arrange accommodation for us. We've already made a special plan to stay in London in advance. We need to make a special request to our mother. With that said, a rock letter was handed to Han Dong. A magma seal in the shape of a planet landed in the middle of the envelope. Mother has already instructed that I'll be the one to decide on any matters related to foreign aid. At the same time, I also have some authority over London's land deeds. Can I check the contents of this letter? Of course. When Han Dong opened the letter, he was immediately shocked by its contents. Keywords: London astrophysical body. Han Dong also discovered that there wasn't a single mythical body among the mantis demons behind Vader. I really can't make up my mind on this matter. Please give me 10 minutes. I'll immediately go and ask my mother for her opinion. Han Dong used spatial means to instantly disappear in front of everyone. Red-haired Vader sniffed the spatial substance, and his eyes shone. Oh, void! Why do the dark creatures in London have such a characteristic? It took only 3 minutes for Han Dong to tear open a similar spatial tunnel and return to Vader. Your application has been approved by my mother. The enchantment over London has been temporarily activated. Please begin your plan. Thank you. Vader's right arm extended vertically toward the sky. A red ray of light shot out from his palm and pierced through the clouds, transmitting a kind of cosmic signal to the deep space. A dark, gloomy, celestial body capable of causing catastrophic destruction broke through the atmosphere and hovered above the city of London. The celestial body's diameter was about half the size of the city of London, and the pressure it gave off was extremely strong. As the celestial body hovered, some of the active volcanoes on the surface began to erupt, and the tectonic plates moved. From afar, it looked like a few red eyes had opened on the surface, observing the situation in London and its surroundings. A mythical body in the shape of a planet. This is too exaggerated. Even Han Dong was dumbfounded for a few seconds. Sheep and icebergs were beyond the scope of what they had just seen. In a letter, the 10th Origin wrote that the hybrid demon forces he brought would all reside in this celestial body, waiting for the London game to begin. Before heading to the celestial body, red-haired Vader asked out of personal curiosity, "Bishop Nicholas, you should be very familiar with Big Brother Pope, right? The spatial technique you used just now concealed an extremely rare void attribute." Vader addressed Pope as Big Brother, which showed that they had a good relationship in private. This made things difficult for Han Dong. "I've only met him once. My understanding of the void is very shallow, and I'm not qualified to go to the real void. I can't be compared with a void origin like Pope." After a brief exchange, Vader led his forces and flew toward the celestial body. Han Dong stared at the huge celestial body above London with a helpless expression. It's easier to talk to this 10th Origin. Maybe there's a chance to win him over. I didn't expect him to be in an alliance with Pope. Since that's the case, there's no other way. Because of the irreversible antagonistic relationship between Pope and Grimm. Since Han Dong had chosen Grimm, everything that had anything to do with Bop would be cut off. Just as Han Dong was about to leave, a strange feeling arose. A strange feeling rose in Han Dong's heart, and his intuition led him to look at the dark forest to the west. Why does the forest feel like it's growing quickly? Is that a flower? As the huge flower exited the forest, Han Dong vaguely saw that there seemed to be a woman standing among the stamens at the top. At this moment, Han Dong sensed that something was amiss. The church members following behind him also turned their gazes to the top of the flower and stared at the woman's body. A beautiful, happy, and even excited expression appeared in the church members' eyes. Even their bodies began to tremble. Regardless of gender, the situation was the same. Realizing that the situation was not right, Han Dong immediately opened his mouth and laughed. The sound of crazy laughter reverberated among the crowd, forcibly pulling the church members' consciousness back to normal. Even so, some of the teachers still couldn't extricate themselves and wanted to express the most primitive love for the female life that was about to come. Could this be the person Miss Sally was talking about? By the time Han Dong had dealt with the emotional teachers, the huge flower was already standing 100 meters away. The woman at the top walked down the stairs made of flower spots in an extremely elegant manner. Her jade feet landed about 10 meters in front of Han Dong. "Helen Hilbur, Lord Bishop, you can just call me Helen. I heard your conversation with Vader outside just now. I'm very happy to meet you." The woman took the initiative to extend her arm and tried to shake Han Dong's hand. A few of the church members who had calmed down couldn't hold it in anymore. Their long black tongues kept moving in circles on their faces. They wanted to kneel and lick the woman's outstretched hand. "It's my pleasure." However, Han Dong's face was calm. When he shook the woman's hand, he even had a nauseating feeling. Unlike the others, Han Dong, who had the brand new magic eye, could clearly see the original form of this mysterious original form. It was a form that made Han Dong a little uncomfortable. Skull. It was a skull the size of fingernail. Plant hair grew on the skulls. There were tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands, of skulls connected together to form the woman's slender body. The shape of each skull was different, coming from a different creature. Her body would reflect the situation of the viewer according to the corresponding skull, projecting the most beautiful image. Unfortunately, this ability was ineffective on Han Dong. Because of this, the woman's various seemingly elegant movements, coupled with the delicate female voice produced by the different skulls rubbing against each other, almost broke Han Dong's defense. Chapter 1302. Bishop, I can smell the scent of dreamlands on you. While holding hands, the woman leaned forward and moved her face close to Han Dong's arm, sniffing the surface of his arm. This kind of intimate action almost made the disciples cry with desire. Han Dong was in a completely different state of mind. He suppressed the nausea in his heart and allowed the fingernail-sized skull and the rotten vines to scratch his arm. I've been to K before and obtained the means to enter dreamlands through the Bufo's blessing. What a coincidence! I live in dreamlands, and my forces are all on standby in dreamlands. If you have time, you can follow me to the depths of dreamlands at night. The beautiful scenery and the company of this little girl will definitely satisfy you. Also, I have a special request for coming to London. Because it involves a special forced transfer, I need to borrow about 100 living bodies from you, Bishop. The followers behind you seem to be very willing to do so. The confidence on the woman's face seemed to be telling Han Dong that no one could refuse her request. Han Dong retracted his arm and replied apologetically, I'm sorry. I'm only responsible for welcoming and providing a suitable place to live. I have no right to control the lives of the Dark inhabitants. Besides, whether it's your forces or the Dark inhabitants here, they're all participants in the game of London. There's no need for such a pointless waste. Seeing Han Dong's rejection, the fingernail-sized skull immediately began to rub against each other, increasing the invasiveness of her mind. It let out a series of incomparably seductive sounds. Can I ask the bishop to respond to my request like how you treated Vader? There's no need. Miss Helen, please think of a way to transfer your forces out of Dreamlands. When the time comes, I'll be responsible for your entry into the city and accommodation arrangements. If not for the fact that he was the ambassador of London and had to consider the development of the relationship between the hybrid demons and humans, Han Dong would have already lost his temper. This woman had invaded his mind the moment they met. She even asked for 100 dark inhabitants. It was really infuriating. Sigh, Bishop, you're really strict. It should be fine if I go in alone. When I find the opportunity, I will transfer my forces over from the Dreamlands. Facing Han Dong's direct rejection, Helen wasn't angry. Through the combination of skulls, she had an evil smile on her face. According to her, she seemed to be secretly looking for a physical body in London. Of course, but Miss Helen, please strictly abide by the relevant rules of the City of London. If we find that you have violated any rules, I, or even your mother, will personally deal with you. Then I won't bother you any longer. I'll look for a place to stay in London myself. Wait. Han Dong grabbed Helen, who was about to leave. I can't let you in directly yet. Miss Helen's mental influence through the skull has seriously violated the current rules of the City of London. Since we are currently outside the city, I will not pursue the matter. I hope that Miss Helen can take the initiative to deactivate this ability or cover your body with sealed clothing to prevent this kind of spiritual invasion from happening in London. Helen stared at Han Dong's magic eye in amazement when she heard Han Dong mention the keyword skull. No wonder you're not affected by my external influence at all. It turns out that you have a pair of eyes similar to Eugenius that can see through my true form. What do you think? Do you think my true form is beautiful? As she spoke, the skulls that made up the woman's body moved quickly with the rhythm of her body. Combined with the twisting of the plant vines, it displayed an unusual beauty. Such a question made it difficult for Han Dong to answer. If his answer was not beautiful, Han Dong's intuition told him that he might touch the other party's reverse scale and bring about great trouble. If he answered that it was beautiful against his will, it would also bring about a series of troubles. Han Dong even had a vague feeling that he would be pestered by this woman. At the critical moment, a spatial fluctuation came from the side. The spatial exit appeared in the shape of a wide, open toad's mouth. A black sheep's hoof stepped out, and at the same time, a breath of fertility spread out, stimulating the congregation behind Han Dong, freeing them from the state of being immersed in beauty. At the same time, a wool coat was thrown over. Helen, you still don't like to wear clothes. This coat is a meeting gift. I believe you're very clear about the current importance of the City of London. Don't show off your beauty here. Once you break the rules of the City of London, or alarm your mother. Your gaming qualifications will be forcibly revoked, and the title of the sixth origin may also be revoked. Wow, it's actually Sister Sally. I didn't expect you to come so early. It seems that you have a good relationship with this young bishop. He, of course, I know the importance of the city of London. Since the bishop's attitude is very clear, I will also follow the rules here. I will use a more friendly method to transfer the life of the Dreamlands. As for the accommodation, I will solve it myself. Goodbye, Sister Sally and Lord Bishop. When leaving, Helen took the initiative to leave a kiss on the back of Han Dong's hand. She put on a wool coat to cover her body and not let her beauty affect the residents of the city of London. With a giant flower as a mount, she took root in an open space in the city of London. Miss Sally, this woman is really troublesome. The sixth origin, beauty with 1,000 faces, Helen Silber, is also known as the Dream Lady. You have already seen her characteristics. The skulls hanging all over her body can reflect the love and desire deep in the heart of any individual. As long as you look at her, you will fall in love. Every dream will deepen your longing for her. Because it is impossible to obtain in reality, most will be addicted to dreams. Through the hypnosis of the strong, they will spend most of their time in dreams with a fictional dream lady. In the end, their consciousness will be dragged into the depths of the dreamlands and become food for the plants. The physical body that is left in reality will be used by the dream lady as a bridge to connect to reality. Beauty, I was going to throw up if you didn't come. Han Dong deliberately made a vomiting gesture, and Sally couldn't help but cover her mouth and chuckle. Ha, if you had closed a magic eye, you might have taken the bait. Be careful. Helen's true terror lies not in her external beauty. It is her inner beauty that has yet to be exposed. There is something very terrifying inside the countless skulls. Han Dong nodded and memorized all the information about Helen. Now, the only thing I haven't seen is the ninth origin essence. You have already met Pope and Hyde? Yes. They have made it clear that they are not on the same side as me. What a pity. Of course. As long as you have the slightest relationship with Grimm, Pope will ostracize you. Han Dong shrugged. It seems that the only origin I can rope in are you. All right. What kind of person is the ninth origin? What is his personality? Is it possible to rope him in? Sally revealed a strange smile as she answered Han Dong's question. You're right. His personality is not bad, and he is not annoying. But you probably won't rope him in. Why? I will keep you in suspense for now. You will naturally know when the time comes. Chapter 1303. In London, Helen didn't dislike the coat from a black goat. This special cashmere coat could accurately cover every part of her body according to her figure, suppressing her external appearance. Her external appearance came from her nature. If she actively restrained it, it would consume her own energy. In the Dreamlands, she always maintained a naked external state, even if she covered her body with a coat. The dark residents on the same street, as her still couldn't help but look over. Even if they couldn't see her face, they still wanted to talk to her. It was a natural influence. But Helen's expression wasn't very good. I didn't expect that there would be someone who rejected me as soon as I arrived. It made me feel bad. I have to vent the negative emotions suppressed in my body. Otherwise, I will accidentally violate the rules here. If it's an individual's subjective suicide, it shouldn't have anything to do with me, right? Or go to the depraved area in London and have a good time. Just as Helen was about to find a place to have a good time, a chill suddenly came from behind her, forcing her to wrap the cashmere coat tightly around her body. The skull that made up her body creaked. A cold, pale flame ignited in the alley beside her. White shirt, black trousers. The flame-haired youth with one hand in his pocket and the other playing with a flint slowly walked out. Helen, long time no see. Are you interested in coming to my place? I can provide the body you need. Isn't this Aslan? No wonder it's so cold. Although Helen's words were friendly and flirtatious, her instinct forced her to take a step back. At the same time, she didn't directly respond to Aslan's question. If it wasn't necessary, she didn't want to have anything to do with Aslan. At this moment, A foul smell wafted in the air. The green-haired eugenist also appeared in the alley. The countless eyes hidden under the green hair could see through Helen's body structure, making her very uncomfortable. Aslan continued to speak. Please allow me to take a moment to tell you about the overall situation in London. The Human Expeditionary Army has fully settled in. According to my recent observation, the human forces have become a force to be reckoned with because of fate. There are several powerful existences within. The specific situation will be discussed later. First, let's talk about the current situation among the primordial substance. The Evernight bishop who welcomed you outside the city gate was called Nicholas. He was the abnormal being who won the London game together with the lunatic. According to the information provided by Eugene, the man was related to the lunatic to a certain extent. At the same time, he had established an alliance with the Black Goat and the Hominoids. This was the first force. From your conversation just now, I believe that the other party's attitude is very clear. Miss Helen shouldn't be interested in them. Also, not to mention Pope, Hyde's relationship with him was unshakable. As for the issue of Vader's celestial body, he would definitely form an alliance with him. This was considered the second force. Bop's relationship with you doesn't seem to be that good, and I believe that you don't want to get along with someone as smart as him. I plan to join forces with Eugene and you, Helen, to form a third force to maintain the overall balance. As for the lunatic, he would most likely act on his own like before. Mudball is too troublesome and difficult to control. I don't plan to rope it in. The other factions should be the same. There's no need to fill themselves with an unstable bomb. What do you think, Miss Helen Silber? It sounds very good, but it's still early. I want to think about it for a while. Okay, you can come directly to the Ice Mountain to find me when the time comes. Aslan learned how humans express their love and blew a kiss to Helen. However, he himself wasn't affected by Helen's appearance at all. He disappeared into the dark alley with Eugene. Helen didn't stay for long. She wrapped her coat tightly and headed in another direction. Not long after, the second prime, Book of Wisdom, Bop Mendar, and the eighth prime, Honorable One, Hyde Darius, came to London together. Under Han Dong's arrangement, the two of them stayed in the apartment next to the British Library. Although his words were very polite, Bop didn't look at Han Dong for more than a second. The whole time, they just had a very ordinary relationship of host and guest. Similarly, he felt Bop's aura. The red-haired Vader, who had a red planet floating in front of his chest, quickly descended from the celestial body in the sky. He discussed cosmology with Bop in the library. Seeing this, Han Dong tactfully left the library. In this way, only Grimm and the mysterious ninth prime were left of the 10 prime substances. There was 1 month and 13 days left before the opening of the London game. Even though a large-scale battle was about to begin, the mining projects in London were still proceeding in an orderly manner. The Humstein mine was the largest mine in the Dark Forest. It was 500 meters deep underground. Only Dark residents with high-level miner credentials could work in the deepest area. They could mine ore of extremely high purity, which could be used as auxiliary materials for special buildings and high-level equipment. The income of these miners was comparable to that of the upper middle class in London. Today, there was an unpleasant smell floating in the deepest part of the mine. Not only that, the cracks in the ground were also bubbling, overflowing with a kind of light gray turbid liquid. Standing for a long time without moving would cause the soles of one's shoes to be tightly stuck. When the miners wanted to report this strange matter to the outside world, all of their means of communication failed. Some kind of terrifying thing was lurking here. When the supervisors realized that something was wrong, they went to the lowest level. The light, gray, bubbling liquid covered the bottom level like a swimming pool. The remains of the miners were floating on the surface, smelling the festering smell in the air. The most primitive and evil feeling swept through the miner's heart. Just this feeling alone almost caused him to die on the spot. Holding his breath and concentrating, he lit all the candles on his body and tried to escape in the darkness. Whoosh! In an instant, more than a dozen candles were all extinguished for some reason. Soft, sticky tentacles with sharp thorns slowly condensed from the gray mucus. It was between liquid and solid, converging into a huge and terrifying mouth. The mouth corresponded to a chaotic abyss filled with corpses. The supervisor was so frightened that his lower body was spurting black liquid, and his will collapsed. Just as it was about to finish devouring, the big mouth suddenly stopped, reassembled into a tentacle shape, and retracted the liquid. The mucus that filled the mine seemed to have regained consciousness. It began to condense, compress, and shape. It seemed to want to take the shape of a human. Every time it condensed, there would always be more swollen hyperplastic tissue. It could not be defined as a human. At this time, an irregular eye grew out from the center of the mucus and stared at the mine supervisor. Without waiting for the other party to react, the mucus was immediately injected from the mouth and instantly occupied the supervisor's body. This was used as a template to maintain the human form. For safety's sake, silk-like tentacles grew out from under the skin, sewing all the joints of the body that could collapse at once. The whole body looked like a sutured corpse. This should be able to last for a while. When I get to London, I must find a better container. What a troublesome rule. What a troublesome game. What a troublesome life. Chapter 1304. There's a large-scale mining accident in Humstein Mine, and there's no news. A nearby search and rescue team went to the mine, but there's no news either. In the Scarlet Mansion, Han Dong had 2 legs of different styles on his body. A Evernight instructor floating outside the window was reporting the sudden situation outside the city. Yes, it happened suddenly. Letos has something to do, and he hopes that you can handle this matter. After all, you've been handling the handover matters outside the city recently. Okay, I'll go take a look. How many people do you need to bring? Not for now. I'll bring my own people. Han Dong was a little confused. As the Bishop of London, he naturally knew the importance of Humstein Mine to London. Such an important mine had 3 atavistic bodies taking turns to watch over it. The top miners working in the deepest part of the mine were all mature atavistic bodies. Unexpectedly, there was no news at all. At first, Han Dong even suspected that the Black Tower's invasion had come early. However, after thinking about it carefully, it was not very likely. When it came to matters involving plane invasions, the old kings would definitely be the first to notice. If something really happened, they would not let Han Dong handle alone. And at this time, it was impossible for the hybrid demons to cause trouble around London. Then there should only be one answer. Sally had basically guessed the answer. She looked at Han Dong. Do you want me to go with you? Although the guy isn't annoying, you'll be in trouble if you get close. I plan to go alone and evaluate with my own subjective opinion. The ranking of the origin demons isn't completely based on strength. Be careful, don't disappear like those miners. That won't happen. I'll go first. Han Dong put 2 fingers in front of his forehead and made a very simple gesture of farewell. He stepped into the space and appeared outside the dark forest in the next second. Due to the unknown mining accident in Humstein Mine, the nearby instructors had lit black candles outside the forest and pulled up a cordon. Bishop, seeing Han Dong arrive, the people who stayed here also breathed a sigh of relief and quickly made a path. How's the situation? We don't know the situation in the mine for now, but the individual who attacked the mine didn't leave the mine through the exit. They should still be inside. Okay, I'll go take a look. Han Dong stood in front of the mine and smelled a very strange stench. It was not the stench of excrement, rotting corpses, and various fermented mixtures like eugenous. Rather, it was a kind of filth. Just by smelling this smell, Han Dong felt that his whole body was covered in filth, as if he was soaked in a ball of ancient and evil mucus. His whole body was sticky and uncomfortable. Is it a direct effect brought about by the combination of a domain and smell? When Han Dong opened his domain, this filthy feeling was immediately suppressed. Humstein Mine. The interior of the cave had been completely transformed into a filthy lair. A light gray, sticky substance covered the passageways, walls, and wooden beams of the cave. There was even mucus seeping out from the different crevices. Since the elevator could not be used, Han Dong could only walk deeper. I remember that there were more than 300 miners in the Humstein mine. At the same time, there were also 100 people in charge of management, supervision, and project deployment. How come I didn't see any corpses? Just as Han Dong was puzzled, a miner with messy hair in a miner's uniform was walking towards him. This individual, who looked like a miner, had a very strange gait. In an extremely twisted posture, he moved his body with great difficulty, and his speed was extremely slow. At the same time, there were a lot of stitches on the surface of his skin. With every step he took, mucus dripped from the stitches. He always felt that his body could collapse at any moment. Han Dong smelled that something was wrong and immediately opened his magic eye. A terrifying scene instantly squeezed into his eyes. Under the vision of the magic eye, this was not an individual at all. What was approaching was a sticky, messy, and swollen mucus group that did not have a regular shape. It almost occupied the entire mine, as if it was the source of all deformed and abominable creations. Trembling, squirming, bubbling, swaying, all the corpses of the miners were wrapped in its body. Their expressions were painful, and they were struggling endlessly. What is this thing? Han Dong thought that he had seen all kinds of mantis demons, but he had never seen one like this. He instinctively wanted to avoid this kind of species. At this moment, the other party looked over and began to speak. A different body. Your body should be a very good container. Maybe it can last for a year or even longer, but your aura smells very strong. It's troublesome. Although he said that it was troublesome, but several tentacles immediately grew out from the side of the miner's head, showing an amorphous state of constantly dripping mucus. They quickly whipped towards Han Dong. Sand wall. Han Dong hooked his left index finger, and a wall that originated from ancient Egypt instantly rose. Compared to the very ordinary sand wall in the past, after understanding the truth and having a new understanding of magic, the sand wall release could not be seen at all. It was like a real crystal wall. But the moment the mucus-like tentacles touched the wall, Han Dong immediately received a feedback of magic disintegration. Even this kind of sand crystal can be swallowed in an instant. Does the tentacles have a kind of anti-magic property? Or does it have a property that can eat all substances? Let's try it at close range. Wherever the tentacles went, there was no obstruction to speak of. It was like an eraser, forcibly erasing the sand wall. However, before the sand wall was erased, Han Dong had already escaped into the space slit. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Dense tentacles were being transmitted from the brain to the whole body, covering every corner of Han Dong's body. The next second, Han Dong, whose whole body had been replaced by tentacles, had landed in front of the miner. He grabbed the miner's neck and pressed him to the ground. Sorry, I can only greet you in this way, the ninth original essence, evil root, Kit Lanier. Because you directly or indirectly caused the death of about 400 miners and disrupted and destroyed the operation of the Humstein mine, you now need to be forcibly brought back to London to stand trial. When the miner, who was pressed to the ground by Han Dong, heard this sentence, he had a troubled look on his face. I can't go directly into the city. I have to stand trial? So troublesome. Can I give up the qualification to play the game? No. Otherwise, I will be imprisoned by my father. It will be very painful and troublesome. You seem to be very strong. Can I ask you to kill me directly? No, you definitely can't kill me. Even if I really die, it seems to be very troublesome. As he spoke, the suture lines on the surface of the miner's body were constantly disintegrating. Mucus constantly overflowed from the wounds and quickly seeped into the ground. Only the miner's skin was left, which had been completely sucked dry. After such communication and contact, Han Dong roughly understood one thing and immediately shouted in the depths of the mine. If you come with me obediently now, I will vouch for you in the name of the bishop and even cancel your trial. In addition, I can provide a shell that is enough to carry your body. I will also solve the related troubles. After saying that, the entire mine began to shake. The light, gray substance all over the mine began to slowly gather. At the same time, a large number of springs began to appear on the ground of the mine, and an indescribable amount of fluid was constantly gushing out. This scene surprised Han Dong a little. The mucus that was attached to the miner's body just now was only a part of its body, and it was only a small part. How big is this guy? Chapter 1305. Scarlet Manor. Underground laboratory. The swollen doctor, who was sampling the brain, suddenly smelled a stench that made his brain tremble. When he smelled this stench, he even felt that his brain had become more viscous. Ooh! The doctor thought that there was an intruder and immediately searched for the source of the smell, sending out a destructive brainwave. "My lord!" The doctor was suddenly shocked. Because his disrespectful behavior offended the Lord, he was so scared that he immediately knelt down. "It's okay, get up. I have something I need you to do. I need a ghoul body with the best load capacity. It's best to maintain the size of a normal person." "Okay, I'll present it to the Lord within a minute." The doctor's brain was the data center of the underground laboratory. He immediately entered the keywords load capacity and ghoul and limited the size of the body to search. He immediately got the results. Soon, a body culture chamber was immediately transported to the current main laboratory through the lumen channel. The ghoul culture body that had not yet been implanted with consciousness lay peacefully in it. The quality is very good. It should be usable. I'll go first. Because of the strange smell emitted by Han Dong, the doctor braced himself and asked, "Lord, may I ask what you are doing? Is there anything I can do to help? The ninth origin needs a temporary body to maintain the human form. His body is in the mine outside the city. Doctor, are you interested in coming?" As soon as these words came out, the doctor's brain trembled when he connected it to Han Dong's stench. A large amount of brain fluid flowed out of his nose. He quickly took a step back and shook his brain to express his refusal. The descendant of an evil demon. No. Han Dong knew that the doctor would have such an expression, but he was just joking. Bringing the doctor, there might be a risk to his life. Whoosh! There was a spatial fluctuation. Han Dong carried the meat culture chamber and returned to the mine full of mucus. There was no place to stay in the current mine. Han Dong kept his territory unfolded and shrank it within a meter to ensure that he would not be stained with such mucus. Now, Han Dong could already confirm that the existence of Kit the Ninth Essence was unstable. Even he himself could not control his appearance, and the slime that originated from his body would automatically hunt other Mantis demons. With the arrival of Han Dong, amidst the sticky liquid in the mine, the upper body of a clay figurine slowly condensed. Organs that were completely out of order were arranged on the surface. The mouth on the abdomen said in surprise, "This is a ghoul, but it feels very different. This is a brand new ghoul that has been bred and optimized for more than 10 generations. At the same time, it is a combination of many different genes. Its body also contains human genes. It is a bred and does not have a consciousness. Why don't you try and see if it can fit your body?" "Oh, thank you." The liquid that nearly filled the mine began to slowly condense under Kit's control. Using the conduit of the culture chamber, it was quickly injected into the ghoul's body. Just as Han Dong had said, this modified ghoul had an extremely high load capacity. The initial injection went very smoothly, and the body did not show any abnormalities. Compared to the miner's body that Kit had occupied at the beginning, the load capacity was more than 10 times higher. But how many bodies does this guy have? The injection process had already been going on for 10 minutes. Endless stinking slime had been continuously overflowing from the surface of the mine for a long time. The ghoul's body had already been completely bloated, to the point that the culture chamber had completely broken. If this continued, the container with the best load capacity in Han Dong's laboratory would also be scrapped. This is not the way to go on. Eye-opening, in an instant, a black vortex that came out of nowhere acted on the ghoul. The bloated body was slowly pressed back to its original state. The black vortex's restriction was not only a suppression on the physical level, but more like a forced definition on the level of the rules. The consciousness definition initiated by Han Dong as the main body restricted the target to a certain form. The entire process took a full hour. When the last drop of liquid flowed into the ghoul's body, the demon eye closed. Blood continued to seep out from the gap in the eye socket, and Han Dong also fell into a short period of consciousness fatigue. At this time, Kit, who had finally finished molding, had fully adapted to the ghoul's body. Slimy tentacles grew from his back, supporting him to stand. Similarly, the surface of the ghoul's body was also covered with suture marks, which was both a characteristic of Kit and also a means for him to seal himself off. It could effectively prolong the use of the body. "You are amazing." Kit naturally felt Han Dong's pupil technique restriction the entire time, and he roughly knew that this was a powerful method involving the rules. "You're also amazing." Han Dong's heart was beyond astonished. Currently, he was running simulations in his brain. According to Kit's true proportions, he could completely release his body without compressing it. The chaotic slime could probably cover all of London. "Come with me. Since I've already promised you, I will think of a way to exempt you from responsibility for what happened in the mine. But I still have a question. I heard that the Prime will bring their own forces to London. What about your forces?" Asterisk, ugh, asterisk, Kit vomited a letter made of rotten leather from his mouth. "This matter is very troublesome. So my father wrote a letter? You seem to be very familiar with your mother, so I should be able to give it to you, right?" I'll be responsible for the matter of the Prime and its related forces moving in." As soon as Han Dong finished speaking and opened the letter, he was completely stupefied. I really need to ask my mother for instructions. This matter involves issues of rights and interests that are perhaps more serious than the London celestial body. So it's still very troublesome? I'd better think about how to kill myself." Kit crouched down and drew circles on the ground, pondering the 10872 suicide plan. "You don't need to worry about it. I'll discuss this matter with my mother. If I determine that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, it will certainly be carried out normally. You just need to come with me to London and honestly live in a place. If you need anything, feel free to contact me. Remember, you still have to abide by the relevant regulations of London." "Oh." Han Dong put a hand on Kit's shoulder, intending to use spatial means to directly take him back. But he found that the space was overloaded and couldn't carry out more than 100 meters of teleportation. Because he was carrying Kit, the space had become viscous and unstable. Furthermore, Han Dong's hand was covered in mucus, and his whole body became filthy. There was no other way but to lead Kit to London on foot. On the way, Han Dong also noticed a detail. Whether it was the dark aborigines they met on the way, or the church followers who had come to greet Han Dong, they all had a look of disgust on their faces. The moment they saw Kit, they would all show a look of disgust, and the church followers would do their best to stand as far away as possible. Kit's existence seemed to disdain even the fiends. The scene of Han Dong leading Kit back to the city was seen by quite a few people. Daring to touch this ticking time bomb. Don't play yourself to death when the time comes. On the city wall, Aslan maintained an expression of mockery the whole time. Chapter 1306. It was only after walking with Kit that Han Dong truly understood what it meant to be loathed. Even though he had the title of Ninth Origin Essence on his head, which was enough to make tens of thousands of people admire him, he could always see more or less loathing in the eyes of the other Mantis demons. But Kit didn't care about such loathing at all. Even if there were Mantis demons relying on their London background who were disrespectful to him, Kit wouldn't lose his temper at all. Perhaps he was already used to it, or perhaps he found it troublesome and didn't want to respond. Throughout the whole process, he lowered his head and followed behind Han Dong, muttering to himself in a low voice. No one knew what he was talking about. The feeling of loathing should come from his nature. No matter what kind of Mantis demon sees Kit, they will all show a feeling of loathing. If he were to bring Kit into the manor, not only would it lower the overall mood, it would even affect the work in the lab. I have to find another safe place to store Kit. Just as Miss Sally said, Kit isn't loathsome, but his own characteristics are rejected by all the mantis demons. His body is like an unstable bomb, and if not used well, it could affect me. Relatively speaking, if used well, it would be an extremely frightening trump card. Thinking of this, Han Dong said, Kit, take Kit with you. Kit, I'll take you to see your mother first to discuss the matter of the organization moving in. When the time comes, I'll have my mother arrange a suitable place for you. But Han Dong didn't get a response for a long time. Turning his head, he saw that Kit, who had been following behind him, had already disappeared. When did he run? Eye-opening. I could clearly see the footprints on the ground, which extended to a closed tailor shop on the side of the road. Quietly sneaking in, Han Dong discovered that in the deepest part of the shop, there was a secret door with a seal engraved on it. Han Dong had never seen the style of the seal before, and it didn't belong to any organization registered in London. A hidden organization? Using the void to directly pass through to the other side of the secret door, Han Dong was stunned by the scene before his eyes. There was a group of missing chins gathered there, holding a sacrificial ceremony. But the sacrifice had already been replaced with Kit. Even though the group of cultists looked disgusted, for some reason they had to complete the sacrifice. The strange magical seal was quickly engraved on Kit's body. He lit the candles to form a hexagram array. A black dagger condensed with over 100 souls was held in the hands of one of the leaders, and it was stabbed directly into Kit's skull, officially starting the ceremony. Flames rose, and the souls wailed. At the end of the bizarre display, the followers were astonished. The sacrificial offering that should have been sent to another world was lying on the altar in perfect condition. At the same time, Kit slowly opened his eyes, looking speechless. Just this. The followers scattered in all directions as if they had seen a monster. Kit had no intention of killing them. He just felt rather disappointed. However, because the sacrificial ritual touched upon Kit's core, an energy feedback from Kit's body immediately converged into a powerful counterattack on the instructor who had just been involved in the ritual. The cultists who had not even run 3 steps began to bubble and liquefy. All their struggles were futile. In just 3 seconds, all that was left was a puddle of stinky mucus and half a skull. What are you doing? Han Dong slowly emerged from the shadows, asking in astonishment. I was thinking a suicide plan, and I sensed a secret ritual by chance, so I wanted to give it a try. The result was really disappointing. Hey, these guys died like this because they touched my soul. Will it be troublesome? Not at all. They themselves violated the City of London's laws, and that has nothing to do with you. If you really want to commit suicide, you can wait until the London game. When the time comes, there will be strong people from other planes descending, and their methods may be able to kill you. If you don't die, and still want to commit suicide after the game, I will do it myself. Before that, don't think about suicide, at least don't run around. Oh, I know. His dark mother, who had never cared much about anything, became serious when she received Kit's letter. She used the various channels in her hands to send out the contents of the letter, and used them to estimate the pros and cons of the letter's proposal. In the end, she approved the sewer plan mentioned in the letter. The request in the letter was for his dark mother to temporarily hand over the City of London sewers. The evil beings from underground would infiltrate and invade the entire sewer system, moving into the City of London. However, his dark mother requested that the time of moving in be changed. They had to wait until the first plane portal opened before they could let Kit's forces move in. Finally, Kit Lanier was placed in a sealed secret room that his dark mother had tailor-made for him. The secret room would provide Kit with all services, but he would be restricted to staying in the secret room 24 hours a day. He could only leave if accompanied by Han Dong or the Mythical of Darkness. Only Han Dong and his dark mother knew the location of the secret room. Kit was in full agreement with the point of imprisonment. He also believed that staying in the secret room and not leaving would reduce the trouble as much as possible. Kit, if you're bored and want to find someone to talk to, or if you need to go out, you can contact me through this crow. Oh, Kit, who had taken the dead crow, responded simply. He crouched in the corner, as if thinking about his next suicide plan. Staring at Kit, who looked like he was waiting for death, Han Dong closed the door and locked it. Phew! I didn't expect there to be such an anomaly among the hybrid demons. His mental state isn't something that can be healed with a few simple words. It's best not to use it as much as possible. In this way, only green hasn't come yet. There's still 1 month left. If the hybrid demon world was represented by a high-dimensional coordinate system, the Earth's coordinates were the closest to the Black Tower. This was also the reason why the Portal of Destiny appeared mainly on Earth. However, Earth wasn't the center of the world. It was far away from the Milky Way, in the center of countless galaxies. Searching for the only boundary of the chaos, it kept going deeper and deeper, moving towards the center of the true chaos. If the person who went deep had the equivalent of 1,000 fully open human brains, coupled with normal parameter adjustments, they would see a terrifying celestial body filled with abysses in the center of the infinite chaos of the universe. It was the center of the origin of the universe. It was also the entrance to the chaos abyss. At the same time, it was also an ultimate throne. If the person who went deep grasped ancient cosmic clues or revelations in the void, they could speculate the correct entrance to the abyss. Going against the endless madness, they would reach a palace in the deepest part of the abyss. A strange melody that transcended the senses reverberated here. A young man whose entire body was covered with small pores slowly stepped out of the palace's private bath. His mind and body were both in an excellent state. In this way, I only need to fill in the last piece of the mythical puzzle through this battle. Don't let me down, invaders, ha! Butler, please open the ultimate door for me. I need to see my father. The music paused. In exchange, there was a strange sound that was above all other music. The great master has already left for the gathering. If you have urgent matters, young master, I can pass on the message. Father is actually more anxious than me. How rare. It seems that the London game this time will be much more interesting than last time. I'm looking forward to it. There's no need to pass on the message. Since Father has already left, there's no need to talk to him in detail. I'm also preparing to leave here to see my good friend in advance. Chapter 1307. Deep Space Shattered Border. It appeared in the form of a broken mirror, and the gaps between the fragments were filled with completely solidified black matter. This was the world-shattering point that was broken by the special team in the Black Tower during the outbreak of the World Cataclysm. It took thousands of years, the constant attention of many old kings, and a large amount of world resources to barely repair it. The space near the shatter was extremely unstable. Conventional celestial bodies would be torn apart in an instant once they approached. About 3 light years away from the shatter, there was an independent celestial body that shouldn't exist. A superstorm that could destroy a planet raged on the surface of the celestial body all year round, and its foundation didn't waver at all. It was completely different from the location of the previous London game. Due to the larger scale of the game this time, it involved more changes in sovereignty and the planning of the future situation, as well as the participation of more old kings. The London Games Casino was re-established here, using the human brain and senses to perceive this planet. But very cheerful music could be heard in the frenzied storm. At the same time, there were waves of broadcast sounds that could penetrate the storm, intermittently transmitting into the universe. In this way, it attracted more old kings. Due to the strong influence of the storm's magnetic field, only a few keywords could be heard. Royal Casino, sexy, online dealing. The source of the broadcast corresponded to a magnificent casino building. More than a dozen luxury cars of different styles were parked in front of the gate. There is only one casino in the building that looked dozens of stories high and covered an area of hundreds of acres. The rest of the space corresponded to a completely chaotic multi-dimensional maze and countless golden doors. One had to follow a special route and a fixed order of opening the doors to reach this ultimate casino. At present, Many familiar faces had already appeared in the casino. A square-faced bartender with eyes as deep as the starry sky. A middle-aged man with 1 foot in a wet boot and 1 foot on the ground barefoot. His entire body was soaked. Various marine creatures were hidden in his wet long hair that drooped over his shoulders. A gray-skinned young man in a vest. When looking at this young man from different angles, his facial features would appear in different forms. A gloomy man surrounded by fog and covered most of his face. Wait, any one of the gamblers here would be able to affect the balance of the world if they took it out alone. Coming here today was not only because of his interest, but also because of an irresistible summons. At present, they were all sitting in their respective seats without any movement. The earliest gambler had been in the casino for about a year. Everyone seemed to be waiting for the arrival of a heavyweight. At this moment, a Rolls-Royce Phantom with a chaotic interior arrived at the casino. For a moment, the power supply equipment of the casino building encountered electromagnetic interference, and the lights flickered irregularly. When the special gambler's right foot stepped out of the carriage, his left foot had already appeared outside the golden door of the ultimate casino with the corresponding sound of heavy leather shoes. He didn't even walk into the casino and pass through the passage. Strands of turbid aura that symbolized madness were constantly seeping out from under the door. Another reminder, the above are all sounds and images decoded by the human brain. If brought in through the vision of a regular hybrid demon, it might correspond to a messy and crowded organ building, and the vehicle corresponds to a deeply distorted hybrid demon vehicle. Each gambler's wooden chair corresponds to their respective throne. At this moment, all the gamblers stood up from their seats and looked at the door with different reverence and respect. The door opened. The corridor of the casino, which was covered with red carpets and lights, had turned into an irregular, bottomless abyss. A strong suction force was applied to the space of the casino. However, the gamblers here would not be affected. "Hello, boss. Azaz Ch Kula." These gamblers, who symbolized the peak of a certain world's power, spoke out in unison. Standing at the door was an old man who was the same age as the world. His black and gray messy hair floated in the air in a chaotic state, or it was messy on his face. A piece of black satin covered his eyes. His thick black beard dragged on the ground. His huge body almost filled all the gold-framed doors. An infinitely twisted scepter was held in his right hand, supporting his somewhat unstable body. In fact, it was the artifact that limited his infinite posture in order to compress his infinite body within the limits of the physical world, so as to enter the current area. A little carelessness may cause an irregular expansion, leading to the complete collapse of this celestial body. The old man didn't greet the gambler in front of him and went straight to his seat. With his arrival, the opening ceremony of the London game officially began. The person in charge was still the previous bartender. I have already deduced the scale of the London game and the possible invasion points based on the chaos index provided by Boss. This also refers to the information brought out by a junior from the Black Tower. This junior, some of the guests already know, is one of the winners of the last game. He is a guy with human attributes, and he seems to be doing well in the Black Tower. The multi-plane invasion can be completely confirmed. Therefore, the gambling rules this time will undergo a major change. Even the basic rules will be changed. I will split the main chessboard into sub-chessboards according to the number of planes and set up a variety of different types of gambling. Everyone can bet on different chessboards. Therefore, I also hope that everyone will take out more land deeds as wagers, so that we can have more fun. At this time, Boss spoke. Yag, explain in detail the humans and the wagers related to them. No problem. The humans' expeditionary force will be forcibly separated during the multi-plane invasion, and they may appear on different wagers. At that time, forces that appear in different areas can place individual bets. As for the wager ratio, it will be determined according to the specific situation at the opening ceremony. At the same time, if the total contribution of the humans in the whole game exceeds 50%, the Holy City, they represent will be regarded as a friendly force, and the lower king land deeds will be drawn from this wager as their reward. If they fail, I will contribute 3 lower king land deeds for everyone to win. The details of the wager will be explained by the dealers in different areas when the game starts. The bartender gently raised his hand. Immediately, a London sand table rose on the table, corresponding to the current state of the city of London, including celestial bodies, icebergs, sheep, and human areas. At the same time, starlight condensed a series of data representing the state of matter above the sand table, and finally concluded that the human expeditionary force and the overall power of the hybrid demons in London were in a state of balance. Due to the comprehensive change of the rules of the game, the variety and complexity of the game were magnified, and all the gamblers present were excited. They all rubbed their hands, and their eyes showed excitement and madness. They didn't seem to be worried about the invasion of the world at all, and they only cared about how to play the game well. Chapter 1308. On top of a barren white hill, there was a strange tree made of white fingers. Looking from afar, this tree was like 2 palms in the shape of flowers. Its name was Thousand-Fingered Demon Cleansing Tree. This was the space of consciousness corresponding to Dempsey's talent tree. The talent slots on the surface of the tree trunk were all lit up. Now it was undergoing the crucial door opening. The abyss was not like Han Dong's, which was inside the tree trunk. The palm-shaped talent tree continued to grow, stretching to the sky. In the sky, hundreds of meters high, it tore open a reverse opening to the abyss. A few days ago, Demps had followed the talent tree and officially stepped into the abyss of truth, accepting the truth from the inside through a reverse falling method. But because of Demps's characteristics, some unexpected situations occurred in the abyss. An extremely rare thing happened. Demps's consciousness did not come out of the abyss for a long time. Now, what overflowed from the abyss was not Demps's body, but tangled fingers like roots. There were 21 days left before the London game began. In a room made of multi-layer soundproof materials. Laughter could still be faintly heard from the room. Han Dong was undergoing special training here. Crazy laughter had lasted for 18 hours, and blood was constantly seeping from the corner of his mouth. At this time, a rush of knocking on the door interrupted the special training. The believers almost forced their way to the door, their faces covered with black blood veins, and they were panting. So anxious? Did the invasion start early? Yes, the invasion is here. A minute ago, a large number of fingers suddenly came out of the gate of destiny of the church headquarters. The fingers themselves have anti-magic properties, and in a short time, they broke through many layers of enchantments and spread in the church. So far, more than 10 teachers and 2 priests have died. This has alarmed the higher-ups in London, and Father Lysos is rushing to the scene. Fingers, Han Dong did not have time to call for any help. Whoosh. Void transfer. A few continuous steps out of the starry sky. In a few seconds, he rushed from the manor to Big Ben. At present, most of the teachers have been evacuated. Some of the teachers whose robes were torn were in an unstable state. Their exposed skin was covered with white fingers, and they were mentally deranged. What a coincidence! Father Lessos, who was holding an umbrella and shrouded in darkness, had just arrived. He was about to use his mythical body to fully suppress the headquarters. Father Lysos, this matter is not a result of fate's invasion. Please leave it to me. I will do my best to suppress any unexpected situations in the headquarters, and I will bear the consequences alone. All right, since you've said so, I'll leave this matter to you for now. Due to the importance of the headquarters, I can only give you 10 minutes. If you can't resolve this matter within the stipulated time, I will immediately slaughter you. All right. Han Dong hurriedly stepped into the church, his expression becoming even more solemn. The white finger had already occupied about 40% of the headquarters, and it was still spreading. Every finger had anti-magic properties. They could form an isolated network that covered the entire headquarters, completely cutting off contact with the outside world. If this continued, They might come into contact with the Church of Evernight's secret chamber. This was also the main reason why Father Lesos was alarmed. "Count, come out!" Along with Han Dong's shout. A scarlet blood dog about 4 meters long peeled off from the right arm, its bright red dog, mane fluttering back and forth in the air. The moment Count appeared, he said in an arrogant tone, "This Count doesn't need to say much. You should know what's going on in front of you, right? What's the situation?" Han Dong couldn't be bothered to bicker with Count and hurriedly asked. "It seems that this Count is more knowledgeable. This is an extremely rare truth loss. Only those who attempt to peek at the bottom of the abyss and disregard the collapse of their consciousness will encounter such a situation. Based on the current situation, it's naturally your six-fingered friend. This guy should be a smart person. How would he encounter a truth loss situation? However, his background involves the dark side of the world, and it's a rather deep secret. Perhaps it has something to do with some of his secrets. How can I restore Demps to normal?" Restore? Usually, in such a situation, you can only forcefully kill him. The truth is devouring his consciousness in reverse, and there's almost no chance of saving him. "Cut the crap. I'm asking you how to restore him?" Han Dong's words contain a kind of kingly pressure, scaring Count into tucking his tail between his legs. "There's only one way, and it's very dangerous. Find the main body that's out of control, and, through contact, sneak your consciousness into his brain and find the root of the problem. And then, this Count only knows this much. Your friend grew up through the fate system. I don't know what's going on in his space of consciousness, so I can only go in and take a look. I'll warn you again, this method is very dangerous. If you're not careful, your consciousness may also be involved. I've already accepted all the truths at this stage and left my name on the stone tablet at the bottom. Even if the abyss shrouds me again, it won't affect my consciousness. You should be able to smell Dempsey's main body. Quickly lead the way. Okay, when the time comes, this Count will guard your body outside." A man and a dog immediately went into the depths of Big Ben. At the same time, on the street outside of Big Ben, Father Lesos was removing the growth product from the bodies of some of the seriously injured teachers. These growing fingers caused the energy transmission, blood circulation, and nerves in the mantis demon's body to be completely messed up. It was quite strange. At this time, an uninvited guest wrapped in a wool coat happened to pass by. This person's arrival immediately attracted the attention of all the teachers, invisibly calming their emotions, reducing their pain, and suppressing their confusion. Truth out of control? What a rare situation. Following a female voice, the mysterious person came in front of the priest out of curiosity. "Reverend Father, do you need my help with this matter?" Father Lesos looked at the beautiful face covered by the collar of the wool coat. His emotions did not fluctuate. After considering it from a rational point of view, he nodded in affirmation. In the depths of the church, with Count tearing and biting along the way, he forcibly cleared the path to the gate of destiny. The scene in front of him stunned Han Dong. Tens of thousands of white fingers were arranged in a very regular and compact manner, forming a white and soft palm that was in an open state. In the palm was a completely naked Demps, who had been completely demonized. "So beautiful!" This exclamation was not said by Han Dong or Count, but by the guest behind him. When Count smelled the scent in the air, he was immediately stimulated and frightened. He actually stuck to Han Dong's side in a standing position, his dog paws tightly hugging Han Dong's arm. Han Dong's expression did not change. He turned around and asked, "Miss Helen, what are you doing here?" The person who came was the sixth prime essence, infinite beauty, Helen Silber. "Can you not look at me like that? I only came in with the priest's permission. This is a rare truth out of control. Speaking of which, is the young man in the palm your friend? He's clearly human in nature, but mixed with the most primitive mantis demon attributes. From a situation in front of me, I can only save him by invading and suppressing his consciousness. Do you need my help? In this regard, I should be better than you." Count's urging immediately came. "Hurry up and accept her. This is the sixth prime essence. Born in the depths of the dreamlands, she is an absolute expert in consciousness. With her help, the success rate will greatly increase. Thank you, Miss Helen, because this was the first time Han Dong came into contact with truth out of control. He was not confident and was also under a time limit. Accepting help was the only way to save Demps. Chapter 1309. Helen Silber. She had certainly behaved herself during her stay in London, and had not caused any trouble because of her beauty. At the same time, she did not agree to Aslan's invitation. Unless she had no choice, she did not want to form an alliance with someone who was absolutely selfish. This dog is... Helen stared at the cowardly blood dog. She could clearly sense the aura of atavism, and at the same time, she also noticed that Blood Dog had established a deep consciousness connection with Han Dong, a relationship that was deeper than a master-servant relationship. As a part of Han Dong, it could also be as independent as it was now. Just call him Count. It's a part of my body. Count also tried to be tough and said with a trembling voice, This Count's consciousness will not enter. I will guard your body here. But Helen couldn't hold it in and actually laughed. Ha! This dog is really interesting. Can I touch it? Count was connected with Han Dong on the consciousness level. He could also see Helen's body, but he could not feel her beauty at all. When he heard that she wanted to touch him, he immediately hid behind Han Dong in fear. However, Han Dong was not in the mood to joke with her. Miss Helen, the time given by the priest is only 7 minutes and 37 seconds left. Let's cut to the chase. After that, you can touch it however you want. Count's strength is not bad, and he can control my body. There will be no problem with him guarding outside. Well, let me establish the consciousness channel. Even if there's a risk of backlash, we could decisively get out. After saying that, vine-like tendrils grew out of Helen's body. One chain extended towards Han Dong, while the other chain connected to Dimpus, who was held in the palm of his hand. The plant tentacles penetrated the skin in a gentle and painless way and connected to the nerves in Han Dong's arm. After confirming that there was no risk in Helen's consciousness connection, Han Dong took the initiative to connect to the local area network. Whoosh consciousness transmission. In the blink of an eye, the two of them landed on the white wasteland. Whether it was Han Dong or Helen, they were both stunned by the scene before them. Even with their knowledge and experience, they had never seen such an exaggerated scene. The giant white hand formed by the talent tree reached towards the sky and tore open the opening to the abyss. There was no trace of Demps here. Countless fingers overflowed from the abyss, almost filling up the space of consciousness. It was the disorder in the space of consciousness that caused Demps's physical body to become abnormal, which led to the finger incident at the church headquarters. It seems that your friend's consciousness is still trapped in the abyss. Strange. Generally speaking, individuals who have lost control of their truth will be forcibly expelled from the abyss and will still be left to perish on their own. Now it seemed that the only way to save him was to go to the abyss. Since the abyss of truth was created based on your friend's system, it will produce a strong repulsive force against outsiders. It's very risky. Do you really want to go in? Yes. If Miss Helen feels that there is a risk, you can stay here. I'm fine. This kind of situation is rare. I also want to see what's going on inside. I have my consciousness protecting me. I won't die. After saying that, using the related characteristics of floating corpses, Han Dong, who is dressed as a bird-beak doctor, flew straight into the crack in the sky like a black crow. So fast, a devil's snare immediately grew under Helen's feet and carried her to catch up with Han Dong's flying speed. The moment they stepped into the crack in the abyss, the reverse rule immediately acted on both of them. The ascending state instantly turned into an irresistible fall. The scene in the abyss was even more exaggerated. A finger pillar, formed by fingers, ran vertically through the entire abyss. Strange. Where's the repulsive force? Han Dong had already made a comprehensive defense with his consciousness, but he didn't feel any repulsive force at the moment. Helen also had a surprised expression on her face. However, according to Helen's experience, she immediately came to a conclusion. If there's no repulsive force, it means that your friend has accepted all the truth in the abyss. The abyss belongs to him. But this conclusion is very contradictory to what we saw. If he completely accepted the truth and the abyss belongs to him, there wouldn't be a situation of truth out of control. Han Dong immediately asked, "Is it possible that this isn't truth out of control at all, but another state that we haven't seen before?" Didn't Miss Helen say before that if the truth is out of control, the individual will be forcibly expelled from the abyss? Now that you mention it, it's really possible. Interesting. Helen showed a rare smile, but in Han Dong's eyes, it was a terrifying smile accumulated by hundreds of skulls. Just like that, the two really fell to the bottom of the abyss without any hindrance. This place was exactly the same as the bottom level that Han Dong had been to. Green grass and a stone tablet standing in the center. However, the stone tablet here would only resonate with Demps. If an outsider touched it, it would be a very ordinary stone. The truth of truth out of control was finally revealed. Demps's original body was here, kneeling on one knee in front of the stone tablet. He was holding a crown with both hands, constantly lifting the crown with the power of will, try to put it on his head. It was different from Han Dong's crown that had not been polished. Demps's crown had long been formed and stored here. At present, he had only come to the bottom of the abyss and used the opening of the door to officially put on the crown that had been passed down to him. The finger pillar that connected the entire abyss when the two fell was also a part of the crown. The crown was made of fingers, and its height was about the same as the abyss. When Demps came into contact with the crown, the king's will inside affected his domain of consciousness and stimulated his external body, causing a finger disaster to befall the Church of Evernight. The situation in front of him wasn't truth out of control, but an inheritance ritual. "I knew you would come, Nicholas. I think I must have brought a lot of trouble to the outside world, right? To wear a crown, one must bear its weight. This is a process that I have to go through while opening the door. It's good that you're fine. Don't worry about the situation outside. I'll take care of it." Han Dong calculated the time. If the time was up, he would immediately return to his body and ask the priest for additional time. However, Demps's inheritance ritual was about to be completed. He stabilized his arms and completely placed the 1,000-finger crown on his head. In an instant, the fingers that filled the space of consciousness and the finger pillar that pierced through the abyss were all retracted, condensing into an extremely exquisite white jade crown on Demps's head. At the same time, the fingers that had spread throughout the Church of Evernight also disappeared. Phew, it's done. Nicholas, who is this? Without waiting for Han Dong's introduction, a female voice filled with love came from the woolen coat. "Hello, Helen Hilbur. May I ask if you are inheriting the new king's qualification? The sixth primordial essence? Dream woman?" Demps didn't answer her question. He didn't want to reveal his identity as the new king to the primordial essence. "Yes. Do you know me? That's great. Can I hand it over to a friend?" Helen was extremely excited. She took off her coat and revealed her true body. She even wanted to hug him naked. Han Dong tactfully walked to the side. Firstly, the Helen in Han Dong's eyes was very difficult to accept. Secondly, the best way to not reveal the identity of the new king was to take Helen in as one of his own. Han Dong wasn't worried about this at all. He believed that Demps would do better than him. Chapter 13:10. At the bottom of the abyss, Han Dong sensibly moved his feet to the edge, leaving the main stage to Demps. Demps immediately understood Han Dong's meaning. Indeed, the only way to keep the identity of the new king's secret was to completely win over the Sixth Prime. What was completely? Then he had to use all means to conquer it. Because he didn't have a special, Demps was strongly influenced by Helen's external beauty when he looked at her. In Demps' consciousness, the most beautiful image was reflected. Even through the combination of different skulls and plant tentacles, an absolutely realistic touch was simulated. However, Demps also grew small fingers in various areas of his brain and pressed on key synapses to curb his inner desires. A battle between masters directly unfolded here. The scene in front of him made Han Dong not dare to look directly at it. He tried his best to turn his vision away and silently waited for the incident to end. Although the scene was a little bad, the result was quite good. Night headquarters. The finger incident was completely over, as Han Dong was willing to bear all the losses of the headquarters. Father Lesos also gave up on pursuing Demps's responsibility. However, he made a request. Let Demps and Han Dong have a private conversation with him. The 6 Prime who participated in this incident was also included in this conversation. The conversation area was set in a secret interrogation room of the church. The domain from the priest forcefully intervened in reality and sealed the interrogation room. The courtroom was immediately transformed into a land of punishment. Individuals whose faces couldn't be seen were self-judging through various means of punishment, such as using hammers and wooden awls to pierce the chest, burning the flesh with torches, and so on. The moment the domain was formed, the priest went straight to the point and asked, "What's wrong? Will the survivors of the backside also participate in this game?" Demps didn't play dumb or hesitate, as if he had already expected the situation in front of him. He answered very calmly, "This London game isn't something you can participate in just because you want to, right? If you don't have an invitation letter, forcefully participating will inevitably be irresistible, excluded, or even directly erased. If they were involved, they must have received the relevant invitation. I can give Sir Priest a guarantee. Whether they participate or not, they will always be on the same side as everyone." The priest examined Demps' body and gave a very high evaluation. "Yes, your answer is correct. I didn't expect that the survivors would arrange for a noble junior to infiltrate the human and use this non-hybrid demon system to grow and develop." Demps immediately agreed with the priest's words, nodding and saying, "Yes, since the other party could cause great damage to our world in that battle, and it ended in a situation where we were evenly matched. Self-sealing is obviously not advisable. Since we can walk into the other party's system through this channel without being targeted, we naturally have to give it a try. I agree with Nicholas on this point." With that said, Demps directly put his arm on Han Dong's shoulder. "Huh? Oh, Han Dong looked confused, but he still nodded reluctantly. The priest had already gotten the answer he wanted, so he did not probe any further. Progress problem was still as Han Dong thought. Mia and Abel could not keep up with the speed of progress. The two were different from Demps. Even if they had done well, they still could not get 2 points of talent at once. They were currently grade 4 Knight. The difference of a large level was insurmountable. Because of Han Dong's special identity in the city of London, the Raven's Language team was forced to temporarily disband during the next battle. Abel would join the Wolves of Evernight, established by the Behemoth Knights. Mia, as a pharmacist, was assigned to a backup supply team. Han Dong also made it clear that if the two encountered any danger, they could go to the manor to take refuge. Currently, in the basement of a church branch that Han Dong was in charge of, he was assisting Demps in the rehabilitation training related to truth. At the same time, he also wanted to take the opportunity to uncover more secrets about Demps. So strong, the magic shield was shattered. Demps's retreating body smashed a hole in the wall, and his whole body went limp on the ground. Staring at Han Dong, who was sorting out the hyperplastic tissue in his arm, Demps also began to be curious about what Han Dong had experienced during the time when he left the Expeditionary Army. It was not just the changes brought about by the opening of the door. Han Dong's vision, physical body, and magic use were all greatly improved. Especially in 1v1, it was very obvious. During the battle, Demps even felt several times that he was facing an old man who had experienced hundreds of battles, not a young man. Han Dong's accumulation of battle experience was far beyond his peers. He did not know. This was the battle purity that Han Dong and Count exchanged through blood and tears. Whoosh! Han Dong pressed on the cervical vertebra with one hand, adjusting the severely dislocated bones, and slowly walked towards Demps. Ouch, my cervical vertebra almost disappeared. Today's training will end here. By the way, Demps, I've been thinking about a question these days. What does the priest mean by back and remnant? For the sake of providing rehabilitation training these days. Can you tell me about it? Demps could no longer support his body and could only barely sit against the wall. With your brain, Nicholas, you should be able to guess the general answer, right? After all, you have seen Mother. The so-called back and remnant actually mean the same thing. It refers to a group of original hybrid demons that originated from the day of creation and have no faith. Later, because their posture was similar to humans, they were also called demons. That's right, the great demon captain is also related to the original hybrid demons. For some reason, they do not believe in any of the old kings, so naturally they're not accepted by the world. Most of them are active in the most inconspicuous corners of the world. Only mythical bodies like Mother will be slightly active on the surface. Original hybrid demons? No faith? Han Dong was very clear that the hybrid demon world was built on a framework of faith. The lower race's crazy belief in the old kings was far higher than their own lives. It was this kind of belief framework that made the world so stable. In the last game in London, the hybrid demons wanted to prove this to the invaders. Betrayal was extremely rare in the hybrid demon world, and the invaders who tried to rebel would only be seeking their own death. However, nothing was absolute. Han Dong knew that there would always be a group of hybrid demons that did not follow the rules. Now it seemed that the original hybrid demons represented by Demps were a group that did not follow the rules and were unwilling to believe in any king. And they were very disciplined in their activities in the inconspicuous area of the back. Demps did not say much about what kind of organization it was. He hoped that Han Dong could explore the West Lake himself. After an entire week of rehabilitation training, with the help of Han Dong and Miss Helen, Demps had completely adapted to opening doors. Similarly, in return, Demps would provide a series of supreme services that could not be experienced in the Dreamlands. A very deep thought had been formed. Han Dong would even avoid Helen when she came. He did not want to be a third wheel, and that kind of scene was not very appetizing. Today, Helen still came at the same time. However, her expression did not seem to be as excited as before. At the same time, she took out a letter that emitted a chill from her cashmere coat. This is? Han Dong felt the chill and connected it to a certain individual. Aslan just came to find me. There are only 10 days left before the game begins. He will be holding an Origin conference in advance. Due to some reasons, I have to go now. Chapter 13:11. Judging from Helen's tone and expression, it was easy to guess. This Origin Essence Conference, initiated by the third Origin Essence, had an irresistible quality. He had to participate. Han Dong immediately returned to the manor. As expected, Sally the Black Goat and Hope the Hominid had also received invitations to the conference through different channels. However, the two of them were still waiting in front of Han Dong's manor. Hopper expressed his dissatisfaction with the start of the Origin Conference, mainly because Mad Devil Green hadn't arrived yet. Aslan actually used the authority in her hands to start the conference early. Although time was tight, they could still wait for at least a week. The reason Sally stayed here was naturally because of Han Dong. Nicholas, why don't you come with us to the conference? I can still go. There's nothing you can't go. If Grimm didn't come, there would be an empty spot. Besides, you're also considered a person in power in London. You can attend as London's representative. As long as more than half of the people agree, you can attend. At least Hope and I will definitely vote for you. All right, I'll give it a try. You guys go ahead first. I still have to go somewhere. I'll be right there. Han Dong was very interested in the conference between the Origin Essences. Moreover, this conference initiated by Aslan was very likely to involve some conspiracy and division of forces. If he was lucky, he might even get some key information. The place Han Dong wanted to go was naturally the secret room where the 9th Origin Essence, Kit, was sealed. Unexpectedly, Kit who was bored and trying to hang himself, had also received an invitation to the conference. Obviously, this letter was not presented on a physical level. Instead, it was directly generated through the connection between the origin essences. The letter did not specify the location of the conference room. It only arranged to meet in front of Aslan's iceberg. Within half an hour, the 9 origin essences that had arrived in London had all arrived. Aslan still had the same anthropomorphic style, flaming hair paired with small eyes, a white shirt, and black trousers. He was always playing with 2 strange flints in his hands. I've borrowed the identity of the speaker to obtain the basic rule book of the London game. Due to time issues, I've applied for the Origin Essence Conference in advance and received approval from the higher-ups. This is a miniature title deed with a sharp corner seal. Please take a look. The conference will also be held here. If Green arrives in London afterwards, I will personally explain the details of the meeting to him. After all the necessary procedures had been completed, the hominoid Hope complained in great dissatisfaction. There's still 10 days to go. The meeting can be held the day before. If Green is absent, you'll have an advantage in voting, won't you? If Big Brother Green came earlier like us, wouldn't he also be able to participate in the meeting? I'm just considering the time. If the game starts early, things will become troublesome. Don't you think so, Hope? If there are no problems, please leave and follow me to the conference space. When she mentioned the words, miscellaneous person, Aslan purposely placed her gaze on Han Dong. When she sensed the gaze, Sally immediately put on a cold and arrogant expression. She crossed her arms in front of her chest and stuck close to Han Dong's body. She even placed her goat leg in front of Han Dong. Nicholas, he will participate in the meeting as the London representative. Aslan smiled and said, representative from London? There is no rule that a representative can occupy a seat in the original substance conference. Sally, stop joking. It is clearly stated that if an original substance is absent from the conference, if the following conditions are met, they can be substitutes. The substitutes will temporarily enjoy a seat in the conference and participate in the whole process. 1. There is an origin connection with the absentee. 2. Half of the original substance agrees with the participation of the substitutes. There is an origin connection with Green. Can you prove it? As soon as Aslan said that, everyone focused their attention on Han Dong. It would be fine if there was any connection with them, but if there was an origin connection with Green, everyone would like to see it. Han Dong did not hear Sally mention it before. He scratched his head awkwardly. I don't know if this counts. After saying that, Han Dong recalled the feeling of Green going in and out of the holes on the surface of his body, and the scene of fighting against the Golden Saint in Green's abyss core. Imitation, feeling and imitating the madness that only belonged to Green, he released it with laughter. Ha ha ha! While Han Dong was laughing, everyone was nervous. Everyone at the scene was tense, and at the same time, they recalled some unpleasant experiences. They looked at the surrounding areas that were related to the holes and were in a defensive state, as if something terrifying could come out of the holes at any time. At this moment, Han Dong took the initiative to cut off his laughter, and the tension disappeared. Aslan's small eyes widened a little, looking at Han Dong with a strange feeling, but she quickly returned to her friendly, squinting eyes. Since there really is a connection between the origins, then let us cast a vote. There are 9 of us here, and only those with more than 5 votes can participate in the conference. Come on, those who allow Bishop Nicholas to participate, please raise your hand. Sally and Hope raised their hands decisively. There were still 3 votes left. After a while, Evil Root, Kit Lanier, also slowly raised his hand. In fact, he actually wanted to raise his hand at the first moment, but because of his unstable body and improper operation, he raised a tentacle in his body and almost broke through his ghoul skin. At the same time, he also cast a very kind look at Han Dong. Everyone saw this scene, and each had different opinions. There were still 2 votes left. After hesitating for a while, Beauty, Helen Silber, raised her hand. The previous votes were all within Aslan's expectations and were completely acceptable, but this vote almost caused Aslan to lose her image as the speaker. It should be known that she had extended an olive branch to Helen from the beginning. Who knew? Not only did Helen not reply, but she also cast a vote for Han Dong at this time. It could be Helen's personal consideration, or it could be that Helen had secretly chosen a camp. No matter what, it was equivalent to expressing her attitude and refusing to cooperate with Aslan. Aslan held back her emotions and said calmly, "4 votes doesn't seem to be enough, since," just as she said this, another hand was raised from the crowd. It came from the red-haired youth, King Star, Vader Cousins, who had a planet floating in front of his chest. This vote made Han Dong very surprised. Aslan suppressed the agitation in her heart with the Arctic breath and asked softly, "Vader, are you sure you want to let an outsider participate in the meeting? Bop is against it." Vader replied with a straight face, "Bishop Nicholas is a very good hybrid demon, and he can indeed be the London representative. Since the theme of the meeting will revolve around the London game, and Bishop Nicholas happens to be related to Grimm, it is a very wise decision to let him participate in the meeting. This is my personal opinion, and it has nothing to do with Brother Pope." Han Dong smiled slightly. He didn't expect that his warm welcome would really bring about an unexpected gain. "Since that's the case, then I've decided to let Warren Nicholas replace Christopher J. Grimm to participate in the meeting. Everyone, come in." Aslan calmed her emotions and spread out a land deed that was like dry soil. In an instant, the 10 people who had received permission were sucked into it and arrived at a barren planet. A conference table and 10 chairs of different styles were placed in front of everyone. However, Han Dong's gaze was on the other side. Not far away, there was a huge stone tablet that was exactly the same as the one at the bottom of the Abyss of Truth. The autographs of the 10 prime demons were engraved on it. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.